Welcome to the open session for the Carroll County Commissioners for Thursday, November 7th. And as we always like to do, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, priority, Carol, if we can we start on the right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, Carroll County. It's been a busy week. I think a lot of us are trying to catch up on sleep. And we've got our election results, and we ask God to look after the Biden family and the Trump family and guide both of those men in the next couple months and protect them and help them to make wise decisions as we try to move our country forward in a new administration starting in January. As I mentioned, voting's over, and we had a lot of turnout in Carroll County, starting with early voting. I actually voted early this year myself. People obviously need to vote, and we hope everybody's informed. But I also want to thank all the volunteers. Voting's one thing, but it's quite another to take time off of work and don the T-shirt and get out there in front of the polling places. And I just want to commend everybody and anybody who did that during the voting process, and particularly on Tuesday. I was down in Mount Airy the whole time, all 13 hours, and we all got along just great. And I just appreciate people who are willing to do that and take time out of their busy day and time off of work. I also want to congratulate the two Board of Education winners. I'm looking forward to working with you both. School board race was very important. The school board's very important, and I'm looking forward to working with you. That race in particular, and so many others in the county, always remind me that of the importance of knowing who your constituents are, and understanding Carroll County, and understanding that we're not Montgomery County or Howard County or Frederick County or any of those other counties. It's important to understand this is a family-oriented county. People are concerned about the future of their kids and their grandkids. And I'm always struck when you have people running for office who don't seem to understand that, and maybe they want to change the way things are instead of offering healthy solutions to going forward. And I always welcome that, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. But it's just a reminder that that's very important. Make sure you're getting the pulse of the county. Make sure you understand what the issues are, because you'll resonate a lot better with the people here. That was obvious on Tuesday, that people are concerned about the future of the school system. People have kids, people have grandkids, and I can't tell you how many times people walk up to me and say, well, I don't have kids or grandkids in the school system. Yeah, but your property taxes are going to pay for the school system, so you should have a voice. And if you're doing that, you have every right to say how you think that school system should operate and who should be sitting on that board. So that's just a healthy reminder to everybody that when elections come around, there's more at stake than just issues and policies. It's your money. So just remember that, everybody. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you. Real quick, I'm only going to say one thing about the election, because I know there's probably going to be a lot of comments. We all go out, we vote, whether it's that day, mail-in, or early voting in person. But the one thing I would suggest to anybody, if you ever have the time, or better yet, make the time, go sit in and watch the recounts, watch the absentees after the physical election takes place. Because if there's one place, and I know I've said this a number of times over the past couple of years, but if there's one place I personally feel very comfortable, period, it's with the Board of Elections and the folks that work with them in Carroll County. Top-notch group and obviously it's both sides politically, party-wise that work together. It's a great group to watch. But I will tell you, it'll give you a whole different perspective, because when you see the processes and you understand the operations of how that whole process works, it adds a totally different component that you don't really think of. And I know we live in interesting times where you'll see things in other areas, but I can tell you if there's one group in this county that I would have no question about, irregardless of anybody's feelings politically or otherwise, it's our Board of Elections. They do a fantastic job, and my hat's off to them and everybody that was involved with that this last election. Been a couple interesting and busy weeks, busy things this week. So first, just wanted to highlight what we do best in Carroll County, which is all of us working together. And we have a picture of Garrett Hoover from Carroll Hospital and Debbie Leeser with the Boys and Girls Club of Carroll County. Carroll Hospital gave and installed an AED unit at the North Carroll Club location for Boys and Girls Club recently. Just a great thing that shows how well we work together as a community with various organizations, and we all partner together. So, as always, Carroll County looks out for Carroll County, and it just shows all, a great example of the positive things we do in Carroll County. This weekend, on Saturday, will be the first annual Veterans Day Parade in Westminster, which will start at 10 o'clock. The Grand Marshal will be Brigadier General Reed Novotny. Honorary Grand Marshal is Ed Sterrett, who is a Vietnam Marine and Naval Cross recipient. I will be in attendance as well, and that starts at 10 o'clock in Westminster. So it'll be a fun time to turn out and pay our respects to our veterans, but I think it'll be a great time. So if anybody's in the area, turn out for that. I think it's definitely going to be something you're going to want to attend. Yesterday afternoon, myself and Commissioner Kyler were in attendance at the Adult Drug Treatment Court Program graduation. It's a 13-month intensive program that requires the participants to undergo weekly drug testing, substance abuse treatment. They have case managers they interact with biweekly court sessions. Judge Fred Hecker presides over drug court, and Elizabeth Ingram is the senior assistant from the state's attorney's office. And I will tell you, very moving to hear the various histories of the individuals. There were 7 that graduated, and I think it was class 40, if I'm not mistaken. And, you hear sometimes that it sounds really strange, but you'll hear people say it's good to get arrested in Carroll County because we actually help people get past their challenges and get back to where they need to be. And there's just some incredible stories yesterday from some of the individuals that graduated and how far they'd come. And, some of these individuals were in this program for over 700 and some odd days. So it just shows the testimony and the testament of these folks being willing to focus and turn their lives around. And I can't say enough about all 7 of them. I thought it was just a very positive thing to attend. And then last night after that, I jumped over here and I was in planning and zoning for several hours. So that was my afternoon yesterday. That's all for me.
Okay, and I'm going to go next and let Commissioner Rothstein bring us home. Met with Transit Advisory, and that's always a good meeting and a lot of information about how we're doing, and they do a lot to massage their routes and number of buses and a lot of things they do, and that's one of the cases where we were spoiled with COVID money and federal money for a few years, and it's going to go back to what it cost the Carroll County taxpayers before COVID. And so because of that, I think it's going to be a lot of attention paid to it during our budget process, and I think they're preparing some information for us, but it's COVID was bad, but there were some good things that came out of it, and some of it was the money we were given and how we were able to use it, but most of that's run out, and a little bit that's left is going to run out. On a personal note, I just want to mention that Patrick Conte, my son-in-law, had a birthday Saturday, and Natasha Kyler, my daughter-in-law, has a birthday today. And family's great, and I wished them both happy birthday. Didn't get to see either one of them on our birthday, but Rhonda sent them stuff, so it worked out. Drug treatment court, and it was great hour, and he holds it to 1 hour, and then people socialize a little bit. It's a great event, and it's great to see guys that made it through it, because a lot don't. It's not easy, and one of them even said, I looked at this like a get out of jail free card, but it wasn't free, and it worked. And then one of the ladies actually said, I almost begged to be sent to prison because I thought I was hopeless, and these people talked me out of it, and now I'm graduating. So it's a great, it's one of the other things that Carroll County does great. And one of them mentioned that. I like to always say I love Carroll County, and it's so many things we do way better than other areas. But a couple of the people at it have been to graduations in other jurisdictions, and they just said they don't do them like this. It's more of a handshake and move on, and it was a great event. Land Trust dinners tonight, and Rec and Parks Volunteer of the Years tonight, and I wish I could go to both. I'm going to go to the Land Trust. They're going to honor Donald Dale, and our Ag Pres is one of the gems of Carroll County. But Rec and Parks is another gem of the Carroll County. I've been involved in Rec and Parks since the early 70s. We were one of the first rec councils actually to do a lot of things, including Constitution bylaws be founded. And so I wish I didn't have to choose, but I did, and
Was that
moves on.
1870s? Was that 1870s?
Yeah, 1870s.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that like age abuse?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Not in
okay.
front of this wonderful crowd.
Tomorrow, Sunday is the Hall of Fame wrestling banquet. Maryland has a chapter of the Wrestling Hall of Fame from Stillwater, and that's always a great event, and it's great to see. It's like going to NCAA nationals. You see people once a year at this banquet, and it's a great event in Annapolis. Hampstead's American Legion, and I'll look at this picture to make sure I don't mess it up. They started early on collecting and sending stuff to North Carolina. Some of the people in this building helped donate. Rhonda went down last night and donated some, and they just sent us a photo. They're actually delivering a camper and a whole bunch of other donations to a family tomorrow morning, and they just sent us with the photo. They're ready to head out and head down there. So again, we just got some great groups in this county that seem to do so much. Sunday, I actually crossed the county line, went into Baltimore County to Pharmacy Brewery and down Black Rock Road for an MPRP fundraiser and spoke. And normally Commissioner Rothstein bashes on social media, but I'm going to do it maybe twice today. I went there and spoke and supported the fundraiser. All 5 of us, I think, have been about as blunt as we can that we're against this. So on Facebook, they said, I spoke and shared details about what PSEG was doing, which actually you got a question about later on, and they're not opposed to us putting stuff out on public, but they said the other 2 counties don't do that.
Right.
We share with our people. Well, so on Facebook, they said, I'm way too close to PSEG, like I ought to be removed instantly or something, and I don't know where people get their idiocy.
So by being opposed to them,
I guess I knew too much, which doesn't happen that often that I know too much, but it.
That's a fact.
It set me up. Boys and Girls Club, we mentioned them, and I'm looking at Mr. Singer here, who, you got wet last year?
I did,
Yes, and
but I made Terry cut a check to keep herself out of the drink. I think she was concerned that I was too close. And
well, my story is I gave equally to both of you. So, that's my story. I don't know if you guys can check the facts, but odds are on December 3rd, I'm going to get wet. And I'm going against a local realtor. And
who are you going against?
Galen
It's a Gillen group.
Root.
I just want to
Galen
make sure I
Root.
know who I'm giving money to.
Well, I was going to say, everything I've got on the information says both people. And I've got a feeling many of my friends, Commissioner Rothstein, are going to give to the other person
Oh, in a
so I
heartbeat.
get wet.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that didn't happen to you, but I did watch you get wet. So again, a great group and what they're doing, and I think the money from the two of us goes to Pantherplex, what they're doing over there. So that's nice. I want to briefly mention Election Day. I thought, Commissioner Guerin, you covered it well. I don't know if I still look red, but Rhonda and I were there from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I put a hat on like at 3 o'clock, which was kind of stupid time to do it. And so I'm pretty red, but a great day. Again, social media. Somebody posted that somebody got removed, and I celebrated it, and that seniors are afraid to walk through the parking lot. And I love voter intimidation, and I don't know why they got that. I was in North Carroll Middle. You were working inside. I didn't come in because I wasn't sure I was allowed, but I didn't see anybody afraid. I did help some seniors get to the ramp, which violated the area I was supposed to be in, but they weren't afraid. They just needed a little bit of help. But I just don't understand that mindset. And like I say, you said it much better than I will, but people push that we need to accept the results of elections. And that's not only when our guy wins, it's we need to accept the results and make the best out of it. And it's like, and I grew up with sports, and it's the same there. In a wrestling match, half the people are very unhappy and half the people are very happy. And that's about how elections go in the United States right now. But I don't hate anybody on the other side. And, you know, I don't think the world's going to end. But we did get two very good Board of Education people. He's an educator, she's a business owner. They spent a lot of time campaigning and running, which tells me they're going to spend a lot of time in the job. The other two candidates, one's an educator, one's kind of a scientist, and they're good people, but Carroll County didn't pick them. And Carroll County made a statement, I think, of what they want, and I look forward to working with them. If the election would have flip-flopped, I'd have worked with those two. But we've already had some comments in the paper and social media that essentially the election results prove that Carroll Countians aren't smart enough to look at issues and vote. I totally disagree with that, and I don't think anybody, I didn't see anybody at North Carroll Middle intimidated. And it was funny, the election people had the cones set the wrong place. I don't know if you heard that inside. And so one of them came out and said, "You really can't be standing here." And I said, "I'm like 2 foot behind the cone that says, don't go past this." "Yeah, we put it the wrong place." And so we took the map and replaced them all so everybody was in the right place. And they were very friendly, you know, but they just said, "We got to fix this." And we did. But like I say, it's I don't think anybody was intimidated, and I love it because, and I liked being at North Carroll Middle, and I would have liked being any place in Finksburg, Hampstead, Manchester, because that's my area, and I also was blessed to have my wife help me because she knows way more people than I do, and we were, you know, oh, that's so-and-so's cousin, that's so-and-so's sister, and it's just so great to see the people, and I think people were energized and wanted to vote this year, and that's great, and I've babbled enough. Your turn.
Yeah, you're good, Commissioner. You're good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So Halloween night, I spent time with the Tawnytown Police Department handing out glow sticks to trick-or-treaters. It's one of the traditions that they have in town. I try to do it every year. And you hand out the glow sticks, you get to talk to the parents of the kids too, and it's incredible how many people I spoke to that night who were concerned about the power lines, and they are incredibly grateful, Commissioner, as you said, that we have been so open and forward with citizens in our county about this, and that we continue to share information as we come across the information. They are with us 100%, and they say as long as we are fighting it, they will continue to have our back. So I thought that was really cool. So I will associate myself with all of the comments that my friends up here have made thus far regarding the elections. I do want to also offer my gratitude to the Board of Election, to the judges who worked at the polls. I spoke to a number of them through the course of the day. I volunteered to canvass at the polls for part of Election Day, and I was able to interact with a number of the judges, and they're all very friendly, very professional. Made sure to do what needed to be done. The other canvassers that I ran into were respectful, they were polite in their campaigning, and so I want to give credit to them as well. And of course, I want to offer congratulations and my prayers to President-elect Trump, to Vice President-elect Vance, and locally to Board of Education members-elect Kristen Zimmer and Greg Malveaux. As Commissioner Kyler said, I'm very much looking forward to working with Mrs. Zimmer and Dr. Malveaux as we continue to enjoy the special working relationship that we have with the Board of Education as the Board of Commissioners. I also want to offer congratulations and prayers to Congressman-elect Olszewski, and trust that he will continue to carry with him to the House our continued opposition to the power lines. I think he's going to be a really good ally for us in the fight that is underway. I also want to offer prayers for everybody who was not successful, like Commissioner Guerin said, and certainly wish the best for them in the future. I also think it's important to note that the citizens of our county and what it is that they chose and what citizens across the country chose on Tuesday was reflective of the direction things I think we're already starting to move in 2022. And I'll speak only for myself here as someone who was elected 2 years ago, but I think it's important to bear in mind the course that our citizens have set again, and to bear in mind as well their understandable concerns still remain, and that those things that they want to see from their elected officials remain true. Whether it's protecting home, defending local control, in this case opposing the power lines in doing so, keeping our budget as small as we can, pursuing policies which uphold the values that we live by and which make us who we are. I think that, again, election 2024 is a reminder and a waypoint of what it is that we are pursuing. I also think it's incredibly important to reflect on, as some of my friends up here have already alluded to, that no matter who you voted for, we are all fellow Americans, and we are, even more so than that, we are all fellow creatures handcrafted by God. And the differences that we have do not make us enemies. And it's incredibly important to have conversations with one another, even about those things on which we do not agree, because by having those conversations and finding common ground, we better understand one another, and we're able to see the humanity in each other rather than just arguing past each other. And refusing to do that undermines what connections that we do have, and when we refuse to see past the politics in another person, we deny their humanity and their dignity, and ultimately we deny God. And so I think that we have far more in common than we might otherwise sometimes think. That said, again, I'm looking forward to the days to come, and I think that, I've said it before, and I will say it again, I believe in my heart that America's best days are still to come, that they're still ahead, that the American dream is still very much possible, and it is very much possible here in Carroll County. The last thing that I'll touch on, some of you may have heard at this point, in the western part of the county, Potomac Edison is going to be undertaking a power line improvement project, rebuilding existing lines. They're not going to be building any new lines. They're not going to be taking over any new property. They're going to be rebuilding power lines that already exist. And they're going to be hosting a public meeting about this on November 20th at Northwest Middle School in Taneytown, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. I will be there. If anybody's interested in attending, everybody is welcome to attend. And again, I cannot be clearer. They are rebuilding what already exists. They're not building anything. They're not taking over new pathways. They're not taking new property. They're rebuilding what already exists. And that's all for me this morning.
Commissioner Rothstein, before, you
please.
mentioned 2022, and I think it's interesting, and I don't know if anybody looks at it that way. There's 5 of us. We're 5 different districts. None of us got to vote for each other. But we're all here, aren't we?
That's true.
Commissioner Rothstein. I didn't vote for you.
No, I'm not sure how to take this, but there's three things I want to share. One is, as shared by my colleagues, a strong congratulations to all those that I guess were victorious on Tuesday, and the importance for us to vote, as we've continuously shared, and every vote counts. There's still a representative in Maryland that has not been decided yet. It is about 300 votes out of 320,000 that separates two folks. So your vote counts, and they're going through the mail-ins right now. But it's like less than, it's 0.09% separates these two individuals. So voting does matter, and it is up to us to determine who represents us. Yes, congratulations to our local candidates that won, along with those that had a hard fight and did not come out victorious. Keep your strength and focus in mind and continue to serve our community. And all those from, like you said, Congressman-elect Olszewski, Congresswoman-elect Elfrath, Senator-elect Alsobrook, and it goes on. And these are very important positions to ensure also that we up here on the dais, but you collectively share the priorities of Carroll County. And like Commissioner Guerin said, we are not other counties, nor do we, I don't want to say assimilate, but we are Carroll County. No one knows us better than who we are. So it's an opportunity to ensure our voices are heard. The second thing that Commissioner Gordon started sharing was Veterans Day is coming up, and there is a celebration on Saturday. Veterans Day is a time to celebrate, is a time to recognize and support and honor our veterans. Memorial Day is not the beginning of summer. It is a time to remember those that have given their ultimate sacrifice and have gone, and have passed. But Veterans Day represents an honorable day. It represents a celebration. When people thank me for my service, I turn to them and thank them for giving me a reason. And if you ever get the opportunity, there's a really cool guy. He's passed now, but his name's Red Skelton. And Red Skelton was a comedian, and he did a 4-minute skit, and you can find it on YouTube. And what he does is he takes the Pledge of Allegiance, and which is a really cool thing to say. And that's why every morning when we say it, I try to remember every word. And what Red Skelton does in the 4 minutes is he takes the Pledge of Allegiance and he breaks it down word by word by word. And it just makes a whole difference in understanding why we are who we are. And it's pretty cool to think who we are. And so when I raise my right hand, giving up certain inalienable rights to serve in uniform like others up here and, in front of me have done, we do that to ensure that the Pledge of Allegiance and our way of life is maintained. You don't have to go into hostile places. You don't have to, you have to be willing to raise your right hand. That's what Veterans Day, in a nutshell, to me, is about. And I'm going to be having the opportunity to share some of this with some of the high schools and communities over the weekend. So I look forward to that. But, homework assignment, if you get the opportunity, it's really cool. It's a 4-minute YouTube by Red Skelton. The PSC&G, there is a town hall that they are conducting at the Ag Center next week on the 13th? On the 13th at 6 p.m. And the doors will open at 5:30. So if you want to be in attendance, it's going to be the same relative layout that we had when we had the listening session with the delegation. PSE&G, every time, like it was shared up here, when they share information, we are at a point where we're not holding on to anything and we're pushing it out to the community so the community is aware of what the activities are. And I appreciate their efforts, PSEG's efforts to sharing this, because there's no value in trying to, pull the wool over our eyes at this point. And like everyone said, we still don't think it's a good idea. We still believe there's other paths to be taken and other ways of looking at this problem, coming with different solutions. And we're not done yet having those conversations. The last thing, and it's going to segue into a proclamation, is I attended and participated in a work session dealing with homelessness. It was more focused on Westminster as the city and the homeless challenges that they have within the city, but it also was capturing Carroll County as a whole. And I was appreciated that I was invited to attend and participate. The chief in Westminster is really looking at hitting this one, straightforward, straight on. And it is a challenge. It is, I don't know what that mythological creature is, but the three-headed snake thing, that's what we're talking about. Homelessness may be an umbrella, but there's all these different reasons why there's homelessness. And we weren't focused on the drug-related reasons. We were focused on that big umbrella. So it's going to take a lot for efforts to be, put together and minimize the homelessness, take care of the community that's in front of us, whether they come from other places and are dropped off in our laps. But once they're dropped off in our laps, it is our responsibility to embrace them. And it's a challenge, there's no doubt. But it was an hour well spent, and I think we're going to have another session coming up soon on how to apply resources to deal with the homelessness challenges in Carroll County and in the heart of Carroll County here in Westminster, because it has increased. COVID, we may have seen a downslide, but it's starting to increase more so. And with that, I do have a proclamation because November is recognized as the National Youth Homelessness Awareness Month. So who is going to come up here to talk? And as you come up, what I want to do is I'll read the proclamation and then hand it off to you guys. So the proclamation reads, it's National Youth Homelessness Awareness Month, November 2024. Whereas November 2024 marks the third annual National Youth Homelessness Awareness Month, which was established in 2021 to promote understanding and awareness of the issue of youth homelessness and potential solutions for youth and their families. And the Interagency Working Group on Youth Programs estimates that as many as 4.2 million youth ages 13 to 25 are homeless within the United States each year. And whereas the Circle of Caring Homelessness Board estimates that there are more than 120 unduplicated, at-risk, and homeless youth living in Carroll County, and youth experiencing homelessness face barriers such as lack of transportation, need to care for younger siblings, and other impediments which can impact their academic success, access to internships or future employment opportunities, participation in enrichment activities, and personal economic success. And whereas the Carroll County Commissioners recognize that the Carroll County Youth Action Board seeks to advocate and raise awareness of the needs and supports for youth in Carroll County who are facing homelessness to help enable them to become successful as adults. And whereas the Carroll County Local Management Board and its network of partners are committed to working with youth and the YAB to identify appropriate services that reduce barriers and enable youth to transition to being successful adult citizens. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as National Youth Homelessness Awareness Month, signed by all commissioners. Thank you so much for being here, and let you take it from here, and we'll go after your comments back to the dais.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for the proclamation. It is very important to us and to our youth and all the agencies that help to support our youth that are working through this or living through this. And I want to have Ed Singer introduce everyone that we have in the audience with us today, because it takes an entire community to work through some of these issues that we continue to work through, and then also the youth on our Youth Action Board, who are instrumental in bringing the awareness to us as well as to you, and understanding what the solutions could be and how we can go about creating those solutions so that we can help more people and be more impactful with how we're providing those services. So, and we appreciate everyone that's here with us today, because as you can see, there's a lot of support within our community to try to tackle this.
Thanks, Celine. We have a couple of youth that are going to share with you a little bit about their story and some of the things that are difficult for them with facing homelessness. I just want to thank you all again, as Celine said, for the opportunity to talk about this is Youth Homelessness Awareness Month. We're all wearing green in recognition of that. I was asked, why green? I don't know. It's kind of Purple Thursday. We have to wear green because it's Youth Homelessness Awareness Month. So, you know, it's easy to talk about the things that are great here in Carroll County. I think I appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the struggles that some of our citizens have with things like homelessness. That's always a little harder to talk about. Youth homelessness in Carroll County is an issue that we often don't see. Youth are generally not sleeping on the streets. Some of them are, but usually not. Often they're unaccompanied by their parent or even their legal guardian, and they're living in situations that are uncomfortable, and they're insecure in those situations. And this challenges their ability to succeed in school and their ability to participate in activities and to develop into successful adults. So we want to help remove some of those barriers. There are many organizations that are here with us today who are supporting us with youth homelessness. They include, I'm just going to list them off, and Celine suggests I introduce everybody, but a lot of these folks are in the audience. We have the Department of Social Services we work with. We work with the Department of Juvenile Services, Public School System, the Health Department, Citizen Services. We have our own local care team. Our youth housing stability program's great. Our Circle of Caring. Our grants office has been great in supporting us. Springboard Community Services, they've got a lot of folks here. The Westminster Youth Project, the Boys and Girls Club, HSP, our Human Services Program, Potomac Case Management, and many other nonprofits. Our Youth Action Board is doing an outstanding job and has been growing and advocating for youth who have been homeless or at risk of homelessness, and discussing ways that they can become successful adults. Milo, their president, is here with us today on the end. He's going to talk about a little bit about the Youth Action Board and some of his experiences. We also have Kat, who has been with our youth housing navigation program, that will share a little bit about her experiences. Bringing together Youth Action Board's not been easy, and I'd like to really thank those who have been key in helping us with this effort. Many of the organizations I already mentioned have contributed, but I really want to recognize Westminster Youth Project and Angel and her crew. They really brought the first kids to the table. It's not easy. They've got so many the youth had so many challenges. It's not easy to get them together, and Angel and some folks from Potomac really brought us our first group of people to the table so that we could start talking about issues that these youth are dealing with, and it really helped me to learn a lot. As we've gone along, the YAB has really worked hard to recruit new members, and they've been out at a lot of events, all types of events in the community, from National Night Out, that and other places. I know Commissioner Gordon, we saw you there, and been involved in all kinds of events in the community. But so it's growing. They're having a lot of really good discussions. They're trying to learn things. So especially the youth we see that are in the ages 15 to 17 are really trying. They're worried about what's going to happen to them when they become adults and they have to be out on their own and be responsible. I want to thank Mia from Springboard because she's been at just about every meeting. I really want to thank Corey from the Grants Office because she's always looking for resources to try to help us address the issues related to homelessness. And Maria has worked with us very closely with the youth. She's a former school teacher, our local care team coordinator, and she's just great working with them as well. And some of our PPWs from the county school system have also been very involved. The library has been very helpful. Christina has made sure we could get into meeting spaces, and she's also our local management board person. And the last person that I want to introduce is Carly. I tell you, this we didn't have as much involvement with the YAB when I first came to the local management board. It was kind of run by other organizations, and in order to pull it together, and it's important to have that youth voice to understand what the problems are that they're facing. It's taken a lot of time, and Carly's going to be helping to take over some of the administrative pieces with the YAB and work closely with the youth to make sure that we understand what it is that they really need. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let Angel say a few words, and then I want you all to hear from our youth about what they're facing, and we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm Angel Hill. I run the Westminster Youth Project, and I'm also a caseworker at Potomac Community Services. So some of the things that we do at Westminster Youth Project is provide some basic necessities such as phone cards, laundry cards, hygiene products, things that will help kids to be able to get up and go to school and feel comfortable with themselves. We'll help out in other ways too if they need shoes or things like that. Potomac, as my role there, the caseworkers are able to help with transportation, engaging the kids in services such as therapy, family services, helping with their cases with the Department of Juvenile Services. So the community does wrap around these kids in a lot of ways, but there's still a lot of resources that are missing. I'm glad that we're here today, and I thank you all for recognizing this as Youth Homelessness Awareness Month, because I think that's the biggest thing is that we don't see these kids sleeping on the street. They are, they're sleeping in cars, they're staying at friends' house. They don't have access to medical, their medical insurance cards, their birth certificates, their social security cards. So getting them, sometimes getting them engaged in services is difficult, especially if the parents are checked out. I've met hundreds of kids and families over the last 10 years I've been working with struggling youth. One thing I will say, no homeless kid I've ever met has told me it's because, they didn't get to play their Xbox and so they left. There's domestic violence, there's addiction, there's severe mental health issues going on in the home. There's a reason why the child is left voluntarily or was forced to leave. Often kids, families lose their housing, and that's going to be a huge issue, moving forward. We have a lot of families who are facing eviction right now. And if they have to separate, sometimes the teenagers are the ones that have to kind of fend for themselves. There's younger ones in the house. So having a place like Westminster Youth Project where they can come and at least in the evenings have a hot meal and get the basic necessities met has been helpful. Having services like Potomac and Springboard or Boys and Girls Club for the younger kids has been super helpful. But the shelter is the key piece from my perspective, is having some place for them to sleep at night. The other thing I would just want to mention real quickly is that kids under the age of 18 can't go to the shelter. But then you have that group from 18 to 25 who don't put themselves in the same category as homeless adults. They're in a situation that most likely is not, it was not their choice to be in that situation. It wasn't that they made a bad choice or that, they feel like they can't get out of it. They just need support. So being involved with the Youth Action Board, the kids brought it up. They want case managers. They want someone to teach them the things they didn't learn at home, such as how to budget, how to check their credit report, how to do taxes, even filling out, the I-9s and W-2s and all of that stuff. They don't know how to do any of those things. Doing laundry, cooking meals, they're eating from bags and from the microwave at home if there's not food in the house. So they're, going to the corner store and getting something. So they're not eating healthy. So just providing that additional support and resources for these kids and ultimately, hopefully, a place for them to sleep at night that's not out on the streets. Thank you.
Milo, it's your turn.
Hi. What I'm gonna say is a collection of my own experiences, my family, and people I've known, other youth that I've known. Many youth, they face many challenges every day just to live. They have no choices but to reside in tents, vehicles, shelters, hotels, or stay with friends and family. These places lead to a lot of loss of personal space and many things of value and importance. In some cases, youth, we may feel obligated to do things for the people who are helping us, or may think we're overstaying our welcome. They're constantly worried about if something went wrong, where they're gonna sleep that night. Parents are rarely there, so they're left to fend for themselves, and they're left in unsafe and sometimes unlivable living environments. And some are held responsible for finding resources like food and caring for their younger siblings. We're more at risk at experiencing trauma, leading to mental and behavioral issues, affecting our school lives, our social lives. And it leads to a lot of us being isolated and hiding who we are due to a lot of the stigmatism around homelessness. And so we're not coming forward because we don't see genuine support and understanding for our situations. And I think that we deserve better, and we should have the right to live and experience normal things that teenagers should. Not stressing over where our next meal is going to be or where we're going to sleep that night. That's pretty much it.
Thanks, Milo. I know that was tough. So Kat's a little bit older and can share some of her experience and talk a little bit.
Good morning. My name is Catherine. I am 25 years old. I am a single mother to a 4-year-old daughter. I experienced homelessness for the first time when I was 13 years old. To normal people, homelessness is dirty people sleeping on a street. For me, that was not the case. I was sleeping with family. I was sleeping with friends. I was staying late at different buildings to kind of catch somewhere to stay. I started when I got pregnant with my daughter. I had finally gotten the experience of my very first home. I got involved with the rapid rehousing program that the Youth Service Bureau and the Bureau of Housing kind of put together for young youth. I was 20 years old. That was the start to my success. Unfortunately, with that start was the start of COVID. Right as I moved into my first home in April of 2020, COVID hit and things got a little difficult. But the Bureau of Housing, the Youth Service Bureau, they stuck by my side the entire time as far as making sure that I was comfortable in my home, communicating between me and my landlord, as well as helping me get ready for my newborn daughter. That was, if somebody would have told me that I was going to have that when I was graduating high school, I would have told them that they were crazy. I grew up helping raise my brother and my sister, who both have disabilities. My brother is blind in one eye from a tumor on his pituitary gland. My sister was born the day after my graduation with a heart condition, and at 3 days old was put under a knife to have her heart worked on. So I helped raise them. My parents, they kind of struggled with the trauma of having a sick child, so they kind of resorted to various different things, whether it was alcohol or maybe not taking their mental health medications correctly. So fast forward to when I was 20, I had my daughter, we had a home, we were on a voucher, and things were going really well. That was a 2-year program, one that I'm very thankful for. At the end of that 2-year program, I was able to pay rent on my own as I was waiting for my chance for my housing voucher. It took not even a month and a half for me to get that phone call, thank God, and I started on my housing voucher. That being said, I moved out of my second floor 3-bedroom apartment, me and my daughter, and we moved into a townhouse in Tawnytown Crossing. That was a different experience. Again, if you would have told me when I was 18 years old that I was going to have a home, let alone a new home to bring my daughter into, that I would have thought you were crazy. The different community outreach that I have been able to get in touch with is amazing. I've worked with the Bureau of Housing, I've worked with, Doors and Burke, and everybody has pointed me in the right direction to kind of get my life together. I'm not going to tell you that it wasn't a roller coaster, because it has been a roller coaster. I've struggled with addiction, I've struggled with mental health, I've struggled with being a single mother. But here I am now. I have a very nice house of my own. I am paying my portion of my rent, and I am working on getting my paralegal. I currently work for an attorney here in Carroll County, and I'm able to provide for myself and my daughter due to all these programs and all the outreach that I have received in these last few years. So I want to thank everybody, because without those programs and without basically a village, I wouldn't have been able to make it for myself, let alone my daughter. So thank you.
Well,
Just to wrap up, Commissioners, I just want to thank everybody that came out today for the proclamation. It's been so many organizations that come together to try to help our youth that are struggling, and really appreciate all that everybody did. I know Erin from the Boys and Girls Club, she couldn't make it today, but they've been very involved too. But we've McDaniel's been involved, and they've got a lot of students, and Springboard, as I mentioned. Who am I missing? Youth Services Bureau, I mentioned. So I just want to thank all the organizations that are trying to help do things for these youth, and if we can get a picture, that'd be fantastic.
well, first off, does anybody want to say anything? Comments, thoughts, ideas? Let's just go on down. Commissioner Karen?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Singer, for putting this together. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I've said it once before, I'll say it again. The best part about my job as being commissioner is the things that I learn. Every single week, it's something new. So thank you for sharing all that information. I appreciate it. It's not something a lot of people in the county know about. So thank you.
I appreciate you, appreciate you all for coming in today, obviously. Go ahead.
I just do want to say, Mallory Sutphin from the Youth Service Bureau, I think it's a kind of hidden in the county still, how significant of an issue this is. And I want to thank Ed for kind of bringing all of this up. There's a lot of youth who are suffering from a lot of issues that people don't necessarily understand are so big. And, when you do this every day, you forget. But it's so significant. Like, there are so many people who, we live in this beautiful county and we have so many beautiful things, but there are so many people who are suffering from so many things. So it's just, it's significant, and we can't let it lay uncovered. So.
And Milo, there's one thing that you forgot to mention. In raising awareness, do you want to talk about what the YAB's trying to do this month?
Yeah, with the hygiene drive that we're doing, you. This is a kind of like a draft of a
We have.
flyer. At the end of the month, we're holding a hygiene drive, and we're gonna have barrels at various organizations that have offered to have them in their building on November 11th. We're collecting a variety of things. The basics, and Amy's laundry cards and phone cards are acceptable. They'd be help, but yeah.
And we're gonna be
Okay.
at Miracle on Main Street. The city of Westminster's given us a spot there so if people come to the parade, they can bring their stuff and they can drop it off there.
Cool. Okay, Commissioner Gordon?
Thank you. Mallory, I appreciate you mentioning that. It was actually something I was going to say, but you beat me to it. When I had the opportunity to serve on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, you see a lot of things that, sometimes you don't necessarily always see. So there is a percentage of the population and youth that may not be visible to everybody in the community, but, it's definitely eye-opening, and I appreciate everybody here for your dedication and involvement. And Milo, I appreciate you speaking, and it was great to meet a number of the Youth Action Board members at the National Night Out with Ed Singer. And Kat, good to see you again. It's only been a couple weeks. I feel like we keep running into each other, and I've got to tell you, for anybody that doesn't know, I know Commissioner Vigliotti and I were in Tawnytown that day, but Tawnytown Crossing's very impressive. I mean, just absolutely impressive housing up there. I was very happy to see that quality of housing. If possible, could we get a digital copy of this sent over? Because I'd love to be able to share this some places as well. But just keep doing what you're doing. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate everybody for sharing their stories, and look forward to working with you all any way we can. Thank you.
And thanks everybody for all you do. Two things, and you guys are probably way ahead of me, so probably speaking to the choir, but I have some relatives and friends who are maybe 50 plus, and they're still haunted by some of the things that happened when they were elementary school teenagers. And what I try to help them with, you need to fix that, or you can't fix the symptoms from it. So, like I say, you guys are probably all smarter than I am and already doing it, but that's tough. And then the other thing, we talked about Board of Ed a little bit because of elections, and so many people focus on what the parents can do and all of that. And one of the things I said when I was part of the Board of Ed, we need to worry about the kids who don't have the perfect family, who don't have two parents or maybe even one, or the one is, I'll say, distracted with other things going on. And we need to make sure they get their fair share. So thank you for everything you do.
Well, I will echo everything my friends have already said. Thank you very much for what you do, and I think it is a testament to the county and to our values that we have, the number of organizations and individuals we do who come together to help those who are in need. And Milo, thank you for sharing what you did, and Kat, it's always good to see you and to hear your story. And you are proof that where someone might be today does not mean that's where they're necessarily going to be tomorrow. And the path might not be easy to get somewhere, but you can be very successful about it. And when you have a community, again, that has the values that we do, you recognize what a beautiful place this is that we call home, and what beautiful people there are that live there. And so, thank you very much for raising awareness about this, and God bless all of you for it.
Yeah, and just last comment is, as shared earlier, this ain't going away. It's going to be there. And whatever we can do to minimize it, whatever we can do to crush the stigma associated with it, whatever we need to do is navigate through the challenging waters that lie ahead. Angela, you brought up resources. Whatever resources are necessary, they need to be visible. And that's collective because, again, and I've shared from the dais, we don't know. We know what's given to us the best we can in the judgment that we have. But the real value of Carroll County community is the thoughts and ideas and judgment in the community. But yeah, I've been trying to break down stigmas for a long time for lots of different reasons, and this is obviously one of them. This is really cool, the hygiene item drive. It's pragmatic. It's something you can do, and really appreciate these type of initiatives as well. So, Celine, you want to share?
I did want to share just one more, one more piece, and again, thank Kat and Milo for sharing very different perspectives and different resource options that aren't available depending on where you are in your personal situation, and I think that's very important to highlight. When you are under 18 and a homeless youth, the consents to do things, as Angel mentioned, and how to navigate, because whether it's medical, whether it's housing, you can't sign a lease until you're 18 legally. There are a lot of different pieces of those puzzles that make that scenario much more difficult and challenging as far as resources and supports for individuals that have that ability to be independent and need to be in a safe place. And we're still trying as a community to try to navigate that and create a system where we can best support youth in a legal way, so that they can access exactly what they need. And so we don't have all the answers yet, but we're trying to figure that out alongside the youth. Milo sits on our executive committee of our Circle of Caring Homelessness Board and provides that voice for us, which has been excellent and a huge help for us to better understand what direction we need to move.
Yep. Okay, you want to get a group
Yeah, I think
photo? Is there?
we probably need to stay up
Yeah,
here
whole
so
lot of
all of you can get up here for the
and
photo.
take your, you could take your name tags off if
Yes.
you'd like.
That's all right. We trusted you.
You were wearing green.
Go up here in front of the.
Yeah, everybody get up here.
Front and center.
I don't think that's gonna work. There you go. Let's get a couple of rows probably.
Tell us with the camera where you want them. If you want anybody to move around. You're fine.
We're good. You're fine. You get a wide angle for this one. All right.
Talk about Commissioner Kyler?
Yep, they're all peeking out there. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And we'll make sure we get that to you digitally. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And always good
You
seeing you.
might have to help me get a costume.
As always, thank you.
On Tuesday, they have me tied up.
So many colors. Yeah, not the right season. It's hard to find long sleeve green things.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Going to the environmental symposium.
Oh, yeah, please.
Quickly, or do you
Yes,
wanna-
yes. Yeah, we've got, somebody else is gonna try to teach us something.
Just real
I'm in
quick.
priority care, I almost forgot, so yes.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. I was wondering what you were doing here. I mean, it's nice to
been
see
wondering
you.
that for a long time.
You said it, you said it.
A pleasure seeing you as well.
I try to show up on a Thursday once in a while.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me just a couple minutes to showcase a really great event we had back on October 26th. As part of our NPDS permitting requirements, we're required to do public outreach and education and so on. And one of the things that we do is we sponsor what we call our environmental symposium. And the purpose of that is to bring together various stakeholders, various community groups, government agencies, and so on that work in the community for environmental stewardship. And the idea is to provide a forum for them to come together and talk with each other, to maybe force multiply, but also make it available to the citizens to come out and learn more about what the community groups are doing in their community. So this year was our third annual symposium. We had 24 different exhibitors, everybody from nonprofit groups like the Sierra Club and Trout Unlimited and so on. Some other groups, some citizen groups like the Friends of Oshawa. And then also your Environmental Advisory Committee was there, your Monocacy River Board was there, City of Westminster was there for their Pure Water Project, et cetera. So when we first came up with this idea of putting together this forum, I thought this was a great idea, that this is something I would come to just because of the information being shared. But we recognized that we wanted to draw more citizens in. So we're always looking for various topics and things that would bring people to the event. And the showcase of the event is a recycled art contest that we sponsor. And so it's open to any high school student. The very limited rules, and basically produce some form of art with recycled products and so on. And this year we had 25 entries. This is the first place entry from Ashlyn Keefe from Manchester Valley. We also have the second place was Madeline Conroy from Century. It's tough to see, but this was actually, well, I don't know if I should say who I should voted for, but very impressive turtle and jellyfish that she put together. And then third place was Abigail Mastria, also from Century. And they drugged me into the picture as well.
We dressed alike.
Yes, yeah, we coordinated.
And people got to vote for one.
Yes,
which was very hard.
Yes, that's actually the one complaint that we often get, is that it's so difficult to only vote for one item. We do not take any sort of attendance or anything like that, but we count the number of votes, and we had over 150 votes cast. So to us, that indicates we had over 150 people that were involved in the program. So as I mentioned, we're always looking for various other things that will draw people in. So this year we had 6 demonstrations. So every half an hour during the course of the event, we had Maryland Environmental Service did a groundwater monitoring presentation. Our floodplain manager talked about floodplain management. We did a rain barrel setup, a tree planting demo. The Master Gardeners came out and did a presentation on water pollution, and we had a Girl Scout troop come out and do a demonstration on composting. We also had the public library come out with their bookmobile, and they did a couple of story time items. We had a plant swap that was new for this year. So people who, like myself, who like to grow houseplants and so on in their offices and so on, took cuttings, and they were available for anybody who wanted to take some, or if you had some that you wanted to share, you could bring those. And what was really neat this year was we had the University of Maryland insect, Rosie the tarantula. So
Chris has brought some of them. They're under your seats.
Some examples.
Some samples, yes.
No planned clippings for us, just the bugs.
Just the bugs, yes.
We went straight to the bugs.
Yes. So as I said, we're always looking for ways to ever grow the event. I issued a challenge last year. I said that in 5 years, I'd like to need Shipley Arena, and we'll see where we keep increasing every year. I had hoped to have a bunch of folks from my staff who were part of the team to put this together, but unfortunately there are a series of training sessions and meetings and so on that unfortunately you only have me. But obviously would like to express a lot of thanks to all of the volunteers, all of the groups that came out, and to the staff that put this together. Staff not only from my department, but also DPW. We had representatives, we had Cliff and Ashley from Solid Waste talking recycling. So it's really growing every year, and want to very much express my appreciation to all the folks who are working on putting this together. And I don't want to name names because I'll obviously forget somebody, but I do want to especially thank Kelly Martin, who is the one who is spearheading this from my department. So thank you.
And you had the tarantula, but you also had a snake.
Yes, we had.
She had it all wrapped around her, and
yes, we had. we usually have both Hoshawa and Piney Run folks, and they often bring out some of their critters, snakes and turtles, and last year we had some raptors. So a lot of interesting things, draw out a lot of school kids, and share the information about what our community is doing.
And in 3 years, the space is getting full.
Yes. Yep. No, I'm thrilled with how it's going.
And that's where I was going is, do you do anything with the Farm Museum during this event?
Not specifically, no.
And, you know, because I was thinking also like having a small petting zoo type of, you know, I went down to the beer festival, just happened to be down there in Sykesville, and they have llamas down there.
Yes.
Which are really cool, really goofy looking.
Yes.
And you get to feed them and, you know, but very much an attraction.
Yes.
So not saying that, but some type of, you know, petting zoo could bring in more kids.
Absolutely. That's the 5-year plan to be in Shipley.
Yeah.
So Shipley would give us the space for that. Yeah.
Chris, thank you for what you do. I know you have a huge part in all of this as well. And I mean, I think it's really cool, the recycled art contest. I mean, if you're trying to find more ways to give out more prizes, maybe you could start doing categories or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe add something like photography or even painting to it. Right? Because I know plenty of artists who are landscape artists who probably would love to be a part of this. And but no, that's amazing. I mean, I wish I could have made it this year. I had something else to do that day, but when is the next one?
So we haven't picked a date, but
Okay.
typically what we schedule it for is late October. So the Maryland Department of Environment also has a recycled art competition, and we try and time ours to be a week or two before theirs. So there's several students that participate in ours, then they take theirs and go to the state one. And I've heard that students from Carroll County have done very well at the one with MDE.
They definitely have some serious talent, that's for sure.
Absolutely, it's amazing.
Do you make any found object art, any recycled art yourself?
No, I don't have that. I don't have that talent, and that's why I'm so appreciative of seeing what the creativity that these students come up with, and it truly is amazing. We changed it this year a little bit in that we asked them to list the materials that they used for their projects, because last year we were going around absolutely amazed at what they produced and trying to figure out what materials they had actually pulled together to create their art.
So when you win a prize, I mean, do you get another reward with it, or is it just the ribbon, or is it?
So that's changed this year, unfortunately. In previous years, we did have prizes. But one of the things that we do to entice students to participate is we offer our service hours. And so any student that participates in the program, we've worked it out with the Board of Ed folks that they get 10 service hours. What we were told this year, though, is that if it was something where we offered a prize, that we could not offer the service hours. So we took the prize away because we felt that the service hours were more important.
Nope, that makes perfect sense. And I was just kind of curious about what might accompany a ribbon, because some of those pieces, I mean, I know maybe some of the kids are entering them into that state contest, but maybe one of the awards, or maybe just find a way to display them like down in the lobby here in the county office, like give them kind of I don't know what you call it, notoriety.
Yes.
Give them a place to exhibit work that hundreds of people are going to see through the course of a week.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea.
But no live tarantulas.
No live
At least not in my office.
Very good. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks. Good presentation. Okay, we're jumping to item 2 already. Request for public hearing for the amendments to Carroll County Code, Chapter 36 and 37.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I have a pretty lengthy PowerPoint, but I'll try to go as quickly as I can. And I'll probably apologize in advance because I'm sure I'll get a coughing spell in the middle of it, which is why I have water and cough drops and everything else with me, so.
She's prepared.
Yeah, I'm trying,
Let's go down here by the slider.
Where?
Down the bottom right corner, by the little slider. And that one that looks like, it looks to left, go left.
Little podium.
The little podium.
Where?
Down here.
This?
There you go.
Yeah, that's the easiest.
There we go.
That is easy.
All right, so I have Robin Hooper here with me, our HR manager. I also just real briefly want to thank Tiffany Steffen in our office who did a lot of the legwork for this. So we are here to share with you some proposed amendments to Chapter 36 and 37. Most of the changes are to, and then we'll move on to 37. So some of the major changes that are throughout the entire Chapter 36 and most of 37 are that we've removed the reference to administrator unless it's referring to the county administrator. There were prior titles that included administrator instead of director. We removed references to contingent employees since we eliminated those last year. Changed any reference of discharge to dismissal. Changed termination to separation. Changed title of holiday leave to holiday pay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that section. We clarified pay and leave for benefit eligible part-time employees where it was applicable. And with the exception of bereavement, changed all leave accrual rates to reflect hours instead of days. We changed when the carryover of leave sunsets from fiscal year end to calendar year end. Changed the wording for performance review programs to annual performance evaluations, and adjusted section numbers as necessary. So the first change that was made is in section 36001, where we added that the county commissioners may authorize or adopt additional policies and procedures. So this was added so that we could make sure that you can also authorize us and adopt policies in addition to those that are within the code. As far as definitions, we removed many that are not used or the definition was not necessary, and you'll see them listed there. We added definitions for benefit eligible part-time employees to define them as part-time employees regularly scheduled to work at least 24 hours but less than 30 hours per week. The current language there is 18.75 hours. So we're not sure where that came from. We do have 2 employees that will be grandfathered. They're at 20 hours a week, so they will be grandfathered to still be benefit eligible. We included a definition of seniority as the length of service based upon the original hire date with Carroll County government, and then revised quite a few definitions, which you'll see on the next slide. Contractual employee, we added as needed or for a specific project. The reason for that is because we did move employees. We got rid of the contingent employees, so we want to make sure that it's clear that these positions are they're as needed, and they could be for a specific project as well. Again, changed dismissal, in the discharge definition, we changed to dismissal and removed the word regular. Under grievances, we removed non-supervisory and referenced the definition of an employee, which is in section 36002. The reason we removed non-supervisory is we did not think it was appropriate that a non-supervisory employee would not have the opportunity to present a grievance. Holiday pay, again, we updated that to reference pay as opposed to leave. And we removed the grandfathering of the 1/5 of weekly hours. So the definition as to how many hours the employee will get, and we'll again clarify that a little bit a few slides back. Inactive employee, we added that an inactive employee includes anyone who's receiving short-term disability or workers' comp. Part-time employee, again, we removed the at least 18.75 hours and replaced it with up to but less than 30 hours per week. Regular employees, we added or hired to perform services prescribed by a funding source other than Carroll County government. A lot of our contingent employees were related to grants, so when we made them regular employees, again, we just wanted to clarify that their funding for the position could be tied to from another source as opposed to county budget.
The part-time, up to but less than 30.
Yep.
I thought you said it was between 20 and 30.
So between any benefit eligible was the prior definition. So
Right.
anybody that's benefit eligible would be less than the 24 hours is not benefit eligible. So we kind of look at them differently as far as benefit eligible compared to just a regular part-time employee.
Okay, okay.
And Chrissy, so a grant-based employee,
Mm-hmm.
how does that factor into things at this point? If the definition for contingent employee is no longer there, then how does a grant-based position get factored in?
We consider that a regular position.
Okay.
But all of them are aware that their position is contingent upon funding from an outside source.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. On the next slide, just getting into the nitty-gritty of the sections. Section 36031, vacancies under filling positions. This was a lot of cleanup as far as moving from paper forms to electronic. So we removed on the appropriate personnel requisition forms because we are trying to do things more electronic and the forms do not necessarily exist. And we also removed on official county bulletin boards for a minimum of 7 consecutive calendar days as it applies to postings. Reason for that is we're doing everything electronically on our website, that things are put out there when we have openings, and in some cases, depending on the situation, we might not be going a full 7 calendar days. Under applications procedure, we deleted all applications for employment shall be made on the appropriate forms, again, moving to more electronic than paper-based. On the next slide, the selection process, under screening, we removed that HR consider for selection all applicants who appear to meet the qualifications for the position. What we are finding is that we are having individuals who may not meet the exact qualifications for a position, but they have maybe not the necessary education, but they might have experience. So we're not throwing anybody out. We're trying to open our pool a little bit wider, and this language here will just clarify that.
I'm going to say I'm very glad to hear that because, I know we all have, we all run into people who may not necessarily have the degree, but they have some other kind of experience that's commensurate with that degree. So I think that's a really good step.
And again, that taking out the word qualified from the sentence, they might not have the exact qualifications, but we do want to consider them in our pool. As far as interviews, we deleted the in writing from the sentence, the department shall report the result of each interview to HR in writing. Again, we're taking those in other ways, either whether it be email or electronic or anything like that. Section 36052, classifications of positions. You'll see there again, we just changed in writing to submitted, so that review requests must be submitted to HR by the supervisor and with director approval, and added may in the sentence instead of, I believe it was shall. So just tried to open things up a little bit for us. Some of the bigger changes you'll see are coming up in the next couple sections. Wage and salary administration. Under the entrance pay rate, we removed prior from the sentence, just to clarify that exceptions may be granted upon the approval. Doesn't necessarily, prior just really didn't have a place there, so we just cleaned up the language. We deleted A and B from that section, and what that tied to was pay practices as far as employees coming in at the base rate of our pay scale, and also if employees were not quite qualified, that they would come in at a lower pay grade. In the next several months, we'll probably be bringing to you some changes to our pay structure, classifications, things like that, all part of the big project that we're doing on the position descriptions. So we're just kind of looking ahead to try to be open to setting those practices up in policies as opposed to in the code, so that we're able to make some of the changes that we're looking at.
The line says Director HR and the county administrator. It's not and/or, it is you have to have both signatures for approval, because that's the way it's reading. Or is it a and/or?
Is that it? Just check here and I can. It is an and/or, so we will adjust that.
Okay.
It should be an and/or. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm here for you.
Thank you. All right, other salary adjustments, transfer, we removed the word prior from the sentence. Exceptions for change in pay rate may be granted upon the prior approval of the Director of HR and the County Administrator. That should also be an and/or, I believe, so we'll correct that. Under promotion, removed from a position in one pay grade to a position in a higher pay grade. We had defined promotion there, didn't think that was necessary. Also removed language regarding when an employee is promoted from a position on the C scale, which is our general employee pay scale, to a position on the M scale, and that is our deputy directors and bureau chiefs. Again, looking forward several months, we'll be coming to you probably with a pay scale. I hope to be able to present a pay scale that's all one. We're not gonna have different levels, different letters, things like that, so we're just taking it out now, and we'll follow our pay practices until that time. Similar changes under demotion, removed from a position in one pay grade to another, and also the language regarding the C scale to the M scale. Acting capacity, we removed that acting capacity may not exceed the maximum pay rate for the temporary positions assigned pay grade, and just reworded that to the next sentence there that says at no time may an employee be promoted to a rate higher than the maximum of their pay grade. We removed acting capacity may be awarded for a period not to exceed 6 months unless specifically approved by the county commissioners. We have had practices where we've extended them longer than 6 months. We have to look at that under the Americans with Disabilities Act. In some instances, we have to provide longer than 6 months. So there was a restriction in there that we were not following, so we eliminated it. And again, just removed administrator from the sentence that the county commissioners shall authorize acting capacity for appointed officials. Overtime pay, we revised language indicating the definition of overtime pay and that it's due to budgetary constraint considerations. And then this is one of our, I would say, larger changes that we're proposing. We are proposing that hours used in the calculation of overtime would only be hours worked and annual sick and safe leave and personal leave. So we removed hours of approved leave, except for those, from the numbers that we're gonna use in calculating overtime. So currently, we have a lot of benefits that are provided to employees that are included in hours worked for the calculation of overtime. The Fair Labor Standards Act requires that you pay employees for overtime over 40 hours, and that's 40 hours of hours worked. So including annual sick and safe and personal leave is a very big benefit for employees. So if an employee takes off a Tuesday on annual leave, but then has to work Saturday, they're still gonna get overtime for that Saturday because the annual leave will be included in the hours worked. Currently, we include bereavement leave, jury duty leave, short-term disability, military leave. So all of these benefits that the county is providing are included in hours worked, and the employee is not receiving, or is receiving overtime. So our proposal is to remove those from the hours worked, slim down the definition, and only include actual hours worked, annual, sick and safe, and personal time. Okay. Under 36071 death benefits, we clarified that this applies to full-time employees who have completed 1 year of full-time county service. Under callback and on-call pay, we referenced the current on-call policy as opposed to referring to a specific policy number, because if those are updated, we don't have to change the code down the road. Another big change is on holiday, what we're now calling pay, previously holiday leave. So in the past, employees who were required to work on a holiday received banked holiday leave. So we're replacing that, or proposing to replace that, bless you, with holiday pay.
Sneeze
Yeah, right, it was very quiet. So we removed any language to the banking of holidays. So employees, for example, who would have to work on Juneteenth, which is near the middle of the month of June, would receive banked holiday, and then that had to be used by the end of June. So we had employees who were missing out on receiving their actual holiday because it was so close to the end of the fiscal year. So what we're proposing is if you have to work, you receive holiday pay, and then you also get paid for the hours worked. And then we're also proposing to add language that non-exempt employees who have to work on those 6 specific holidays listed there would receive time and a half for those hours worked as opposed to straight time. So this really gets rid of a leave bank that employees were having trouble using, in addition to the other generous leave that we also already provide.
Christy, before we go on a little further, can we go back one slide to the death benefits? Just I want a little point of clarification there. So, God forbid that someone who's working for the county, passes while in service of the county. And again, God forbid a scenario like this happens where maybe you're working for a road crew or something and you're a week on the job and something happens, right? What is available to someone in that capacity for their loved ones here?
So a week on the job is a little bit different from being benefit eligible. So somebody that's benefit eligible, we do offer life insurance for. What this is for employees who, to answer your question, somebody who's been here a week, we really do not have a benefit for them if they're not benefit eligible yet. What this is for somebody who's been here more than a year on full-time service, we give 1 month's salary to their beneficiary to help with some of the expenses that they're going to incur immediately. So they also would receive life insurance because that is a benefit that we provide to benefit eligible employees. So one week is nothing, unfortunately, because
Except if it were an
workers'
on-the-job
yeah.
injury, of course, then all the workman's compensation and other, not work, there's a lot more if it's on-the-job death. If it's, let's say they're, God forbid, in a car accident, totally unrelated to the county, and then as Christy said, then if they're eligible for benefits, this came up actually when we started Chapter 37. There was a whole hoopla over, oh my God, all you're offering is 1 month's salary, to somebody who's died. This is solely, we write this check, not even a check today, but immediately. So this is money that's in the loved one's hands, hopefully before they even talk to the funeral director or that kind of thing. Whereas insurance and other things, there's a process to getting that money from those companies. And so that we found takes some time. So this is I think, quite a nice generous benefit to those who can use that money right away.
And I wanted to make sure that, again, God forbid someone who's on the job for a week and something happens. I just want to make sure that they have something that
So
by
we
us.
have waiting periods in place for our benefits. So if you're hired, say between the 1st and the 15th of a month, is it the 15th? Yeah. 1st and 15th of a month, you're effective for benefits the 1st of the next month.
Okay.
So if somebody is in that time frame, they're not eligible for life insurance yet. And then for anybody hired the 16th through the end of the month, they're effective the 1st of the following month. So they have a little bit more of a waiting period. But in that time frame, there really is no life insurance benefit. But after that period, they would at a minimum receive life insurance. And then if they've been here a year of full-time service, they would get the death benefit as well. Their beneficiary would get the death benefit as well.
All right, and then just one last point on this, and I apologize. I'm just because I'm thinking about those 2 road workers who were killed last year, right? And I know they were
6. 2
they
were
were
county
from
employees.
county.
2, right? I
Yeah.
apologize. Right.
No, I just want, it was
They're
unfortunately
county
even more
residents.
tragic than.
Right, and so I'm thinking about something like that. So I remember early on that you in 36.001, county commissioners may authorize or adopt additional. So, for example, God forbid something happens, we would have it in our authority to say we do want to cover someone who may not necessarily meet that qualifying period. We would have that authority to be able to intervene as commissioners and say, no, we do want to cover them. I want to make. I don't want to.
I don't
No,
think,
I
I
think
think that would be precedent setting that you wouldn't want to do. This is pretty standard in private industry too, it's, when you're a new employee, you're a new employee.
Yeah, we'd have to
And-
look at law. I wouldn't want to answer that in open
Okay,
session
all right.
without looking at,
And I'm sorry for putting you on the
human
spot. It was just
resources.
something
And private
Looking at
entities, a
FMLA
lot of
and
them,
other
it's a lot longer period than what we're pretty quick.
Yeah, this was something I didn't have at my prior employer. There was
Yeah.
no death benefit. I just had life insurance. So there was nothing
Gotcha.
immediate.
Yeah.
I had to go through the life insurance process. So Certainly you can, consider the time frame. That's entirely up to you.
Okay, all right,
But I think it is a very generous benefit for.
Oh, I'm certainly
No,
not
no,
promising.
I know you weren't saying that, but it is very generous.
Again, it was just something that popped into my head, and I figured I'd better ask about it, so, thank you. Sorry to
It's a
derail us a
benefit
bit.
people hopefully never have to take advantage of, but most don't know
Right.
that it's there for their family or their beneficiary.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Sure. Again, going back to holiday leave, there was a policy or language in the code relating to individuals that were hired prior to March 1st of 2017, and that they were paid holiday leave different from other employees. So where this really comes into play is with our roads crew. So they work in the summer or spring, summer, early fall, a 10-hour schedule. So if you were hired prior to, and correct me if I go astray here, if you were hired prior to March 1st, 2017, you are on a 10-hour schedule, you would get 10 hours of holiday pay. If you were hired after March 1st, 2017, you only got 8 hours of holiday pay and you had to use 2 hours of your own time. So this is completely eliminating that. Again, we're going to pay them, but we're going to pay them for the number of hours that they would have regularly been scheduled for that day. We're getting rid of that grandfathering. And that is something I've heard from them probably since day one I got here, that they did not think that was fair. So we also included that employees on unpaid leave, including leave that is covered by workers' comp or short-term disability, are not eligible for holiday pay. The reason for that is when you're on workers' comp or short-term disability, that's looking at a week's wages. So the holiday would be in addition to that. It's actually kind of already calculated in the amount of funds that you're receiving for workers' comp or holiday pay. And we just updated the language about employees who are absent on a holiday without approved leave, that they may forfeit the holiday pay and be otherwise disciplined for not showing up on a holiday. Questions on holiday? That's a pretty big one. All right, attendance and leave. Again, a lot of these I kind of mentioned at the beginning. We changed the number of days to hours for most of these, just to make it a little bit clearer as far as how much time employees were receiving. We clarified that maximum accumulation limit is prorated for those that work less than 40 hours, and also indicated that the amount of time that would be paid out for someone who leaves employment is going to be up to the maximum that an employee is allowed to accumulate per year. So right now, we accumulate all year, when it gets to the end of the fiscal year, they cut you back to what the limit was. So if I leave and I have higher than the limit, I believe we've been paying out over the limit. So this just says if you leave, you're only going to get the limit. Sick and safe leave, we added a provision regarding the limitation of sick leave accrual to 720 hours. Right now, it's unlimited. So this will not affect current employees, and I want to make that very clear. This will only be for employees that are hired after July 1st, 2025. They will come in with the knowledge that they will not be able to accumulate more than 720 hours. Again, not for current employees. Personal leave, we are requesting to change the accumulation to be prorated in the first year of an employee's employment. What we've found is that we're hiring employees in June and they're getting 6 days of personal leave. So that is a lot of time to use in that period of time. So we want to prorate it in that anybody hired in the first 4 months of the year would get the full 6 days. Anybody hired in the next 4 months would get 4 days, and then anybody hired in the last 4 months would get 2 days. Again, this does not affect current employees, only for employees that are coming on board, and it's driven by the month of their hire. Compensatory leave is just some clarification on language regarding when employees can choose comp leave over paid overtime to make sure that it's clear that that has to be done prior to the beginning of a pay period. Clarified that comp hours below 80 do not expire and may be used and will be paid out per the other provisions of the leaves in the section, and added language that upon becoming an exempt employee or separating from employment, employees shall be paid for all accumulated compensatory time. So we have employees who have been here for a very long time. They came in as a non-exempt employee and have worked their way up through the organization and have moved to a salaried exempt employee. They've maintained their bank, and when they leave, we are required by law to pay them out, and that bank is paid at their higher pay rate, so their pay rate upon leaving the organization. What we are proposing here is that when you move from a non-exempt employee, an hourly employee, to a salaried employee, we will pay you out upon that transfer, upon that move, and it will be at your last non-exempt pay rate. Under administrative leave, we added language under jury duty that an employee has to submit their entire payment received for jury duty to receive administrative leave. We had some employees come to us recently that said, well, I'm only giving you 2/3 of my jury duty leave because I would have only worked 2 of those days. And we were like, that's not how this works. We're giving you a full pay for that. We receive the entire payment. So just clarifying, added the word the entire payment in there. Under military, we added the Space Force to the list of eligible branches in the military. And bereavement is also a pretty large change for us. Currently, we have limited number of days that we provide under bereavement leave, and we are going to, the proposal is that we would offer 5 regularly scheduled work days for an immediate family member, and it's defined there as a spouse, parent, or child, including in-laws and step. 3 regularly scheduled work days for other than an immediate family member, and that's a sibling, grandparent, or grandchild, including an in-law or step, and 1 regularly scheduled work day for extended family member, and that's defined as great-grandparent, great-grandchild, aunt, uncle, niece, or nephew, including in-laws and step. So this is more in line with what we're seeing in the world. Right now, we give 3 days for the loss of a parent or a child, and we believe that a full week is more appropriate to deal with that loss. We also clarified that bereavement leave does not need to be used in consecutive days because we're seeing more memorial services and things happening later on down the road. We want to provide the opportunity for that time to be used for that. And we removed the specific types of appropriate documentation. So we didn't say it has to be, an obituary or anything specific. It's just that we can request appropriate documentation to validate the absence if we need to do that.
So if my grandmother dies multiple times throughout the year, you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
make me
ask a
document it.
question. Yep. I'm gonna wonder.
She's amazing, that grandma.
Yeah. Leave of absence without pay. Under duration, we clarified that the duration of leave without pay shall be at the discretion of the director in consultation with HR. I don't think that in consultation was in there before, so we want to make sure that we're both on the same page and that we're aware should there be a need for any type of paperwork to be filled out. We also removed the limitation of 30 days in a rolling 12-month calendar period. Again, this is, we've given leaves that are longer than 30 days. It depends on, we look at every situation individually. We look at what we've done in the past. We look at the employee's employment history. So 30 days as a limit really is not something that we've been following. So we removed it. Just want to be clear for anybody that's listening that this does not mean that we can just give employees leave without pay. As a supervisor, you can just let somebody be off, leave without pay because they removed the 30 days. This is intended more for a leave of absence, an extended period of time, not just because the employee used all their other time already and now they just want to take off without leave without pay. Or with leave without pay, sorry. Under the approval, we remove the sentence regarding that there's no entitlement to leave of absence without pay except where required by federal or state law. We do like I said, look at each case individually, and it's very clear as far as that the process is dependent upon each individual situation.
And I will say real quick, and again, just don't mean to interrupt, I like the fact that there's a lot of flexibility that's being built into this, that somebody can make a judgment call because, not everything is going to be categorical when it comes to human life. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's going to be opportunities to look at everything individually, and we want to make sure we're treating individuals as we've treated others and not treating people differently, depending on circumstances, but yet we want to be able to offer flexibility, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. We clarified that leave must be requested and approved prior to the beginning of the absence, except under extenuating circumstances. So, God forbid, there's a car accident or somebody doesn't have a family member that can reach out to us prior to the beginning of the absence, that we will consider them. We removed the ability to make written appeal for leave without pay to the county commissioners. And that, again, goes to our desire to make sure that we're treating everybody the same, and that everything is coming through the process and we're looking at everything individually. Return to active employment, we changed shall to may in the sentence that's listed there. Under probation, one of the big changes and one that was actually requested by the department is for the Department of Emergency Communications Center, and Val's here, she can probably give a thumbs up if she's all for this. We are requesting to change the initial probationary period for the ECC employees to a minimum of 12 months till they make it through the training program. We really don't have time in 6 months to assess them properly, so we want to give us the opportunity to do that without having to say, we're extending your probation, we'll just leave them on a 12-month probation. And also updated that the initial probationary period may not be extended more than an additional 6 months. And then this 36-105 initial probation after that is me typing on 3 screens and not knowing where it's going, so you can just strike through that. Under performance probation, we eliminated that, and performance probation will be incorporated in a way into progressive discipline, and we'll get to that very soon. Annual performance evaluations, we defined the purpose as to identify and evaluate employee strengths and weaknesses and to provide feedback and support for employee success. Again, just modernizing the language there. We eliminated the performance review categories because we will not have the performance probation and also the interim performance probation that we had used previously. 36-122, we no longer, we eliminated this section and incorporated it into the general heading. We removed corresponding standards. We no longer use them because we are working through our job descriptions and making sure they're all updated with appropriate actions and work that an employee is doing. We revised to reflect that a supervisor shall conduct an annual performance review at least once per year, but that they can be conducted more frequently. We eliminated D and E, which again was the definition of interim performance probation and performance probation. And we clarified language stating that employee's performance review is not subject to the grievance procedure, and removed except where the employee has received no pay increase or is placed on performance probation. Outside employment, we added language that Human Resources and our Ethics Administrator, Mr. Burke, need to be part of the review of the outside employment form, and we added that employees will be notified of any denied outside employment requests.
Hey, back to the last line on the last slide.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that change? What were there problems, or it's just, you're just cleaning stuff up?
We were just cleaning things up. Nobody's ever not gotten a pay increase. So that's why we removed that, because we did not think that should be part of the grievance process. And then also we removed the performance probation, so we just struck that through as well.
The outside employment, is this for both full-time and part-time?
Yeah, it's
employees?
any outside, yeah.
Okay,
Even volunteer, work,
okay.
because it could cause a conflict.
Separation of employment under methods, the first one is resignation. We changed that notice, that should be, may be waived by HR instead of the supervisor, and that failure to give appropriate notice may be cause for denying future county employment. So there are instances that have come up where somebody says, I'm gonna, my last day is gonna be in 2 weeks, and we say, we really don't need you for that time frame. We know you're leaving, so we may waive their notice. The director may approve but is not required to approve the use of leave. And this is a change in that it previously said not to exceed 10 workdays. We're proposing a change to 5 workdays, and including holidays prior to the employee's effective date of resignation. So When an employee is leaving, we usually do not post for that position and hire for that position until the individual is gone. So if they are allowed to use leave, it really does push out the time frame that it takes to get a replacement for them. And if they're allowed to use leave during 10 days, it just really extends it. So we're saying you can't use, if you're gonna be here, if you're giving your notice, we want you here to finish out your work with us, and that you will not be approved for any leave further than 5 days.
So it's not like I say, peace out, I'm quitting and I'm going to take my 2 weeks now.
Right, we're limiting that to 5 days. We're limiting that to 5 days.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Under abandonment, we changed that separation of employment for abandonment shall occur automatically after an absence without approved leave for 3 consecutive workdays. And we added that an employee abandoning their position will not be paid out for any accrued unused annual sick and safe or personal leave and shall not be eligible for reemployment with the county. So, again, this is somebody who just blows us off for 3 days. It's not somebody that, it comes in and says, hey, today's my last day. That to me is not the same thing. This is for 3 consecutive work days. We hear nothing from you. We know nothing about you. So that was the term for abandonment. Under dismissal, we changed that a supervisor recommending dismissal must meet with HR to discuss the recommendation and reasons for dismissal. Clarified that a supervisor with HR as a witness shall meet with the employee to notify them of their dismissal and grievance rights. Eliminated number 3 and number 4, which are due to changes in the process. And what was formerly number 5, we adjusted to number 3 and clarified that an employee who has been dismissed may not be eligible for future employment with the county. So just looking at numbers 3 and 4, which were eliminated, that was, there we go, all part of the process.
You had a pretty good run, though.
I did get pretty far through before. Part of the process for termination was, the process was pretty convoluted. So a supervisor or manager would come to us and indicate that they thought someone was at the point of termination. We would meet with that employee with a representative from HR who wasn't involved in that initial discussion. The employee would have their opportunity to explain why they didn't think they should be terminated. And then that outside person would take that into consideration and decide if we should move forward with the termination. So we're changing the process that if a supervisor or manager is at the point of wanting to request termination, that they will come to HR. We will discuss that. If we all think it's appropriate, we will move forward with the termination. There is a grievance process. If somebody is terminated, that they can then follow. But having someone in there in the middle to kind of hear the reasons, we should be knowing that before we even come to the point of deciding to terminate or not. So it's a big change in process, but I think one that really, puts the onus on the supervisor and manager, director to come to HR, and that we're going forward with a joint decision. Under layoff, we outlined that the procedures for layoff will be determined at the time of layoff. It was previously noted that I think was part of a policy, so we'll look at that if it ever comes to that point. That we'll need to take a look at that. There was a a policy in place that we specifically referenced. Under the effect of separation, we added that an employee returning to county service following separation shall receive no seniority privileges or credit for previous service unless otherwise granted by law or the county administrator. Again, that was something that had been the practice. There have been instances where we've looked at how long someone was gone or what position they're coming back into, and there were some individuals who have gotten some previous credit for service. Under exit interviews, we revised that HR shall disclose the interview to the department director and/or the county administrator. Use the word agency and interest, so we just changed it to department director. Under discipline, again, this is a pretty significant change in the proposals.
Just a question, and I must have missed it. Somebody decides to depart. they have to give a minimum time.
We asked for 2 weeks, yes.
We asked for 2 weeks. What we don't want to get caught up in is this maximum time, like a overabundance of time, because it's happened in the past. So do we ask for 2 weeks and we say 2 weeks and no more than a certain amount of time
For notice,
for notice?
no, we don't have any limitations on that.
What do you do?
There should be
I mean, what if I said, I'm leaving, but it's gonna be January 30th?
Right.
That's okay?
We have had that instance, we do have that with people that are retiring. It's most of the time when individuals are retiring.
I understand. It's just the challenge is, you know, it's playing Tetris. We got to put the right people in the right place at the right time, and you know, we know this specifically that it could be a challenge. That we don't want to overhire, but we also don't want a gap too long.
Right.
How can we capture that, and should it be codified in a sense, in a way? I don't know. I'm just,
I think it's a case-by-case basis. I don't think it's an issue that arises very often. There are times when it is a critical need. There's, you know,
Phil,
we
yeah.
call ourselves a county of one sometimes, where there's only one person who does that job. And so we, you know, if they give us, you know, significant notice, we can hire someone to help them, you know, train that new person. So I wouldn't want to limit, you know, put an upper limit on it, because I think that could, you know, again, it's a case-by-case basis.
And it probably doesn't happen often, you know? In other words, if there were one or two, do you really change a rule?
Yeah, I wouldn't change a rule. I've only known it to happen once.
can we put a discretion on us to,
I think that one earlier on did, where we could
Okay.
just say, thanks, but no.
okay,
And I think a lot of times with the retirement notices,
yeah,
you know, we're not allowing them to go back on that. So
Right.
we're not gonna overfill. If we would hire somebody and the employee comes back and says, oh, I wanna stay now.
Right.
Once you give us your notice and we've
Right.
moved forward with that process, you can't turn back. So we at least have that process in place that we
Yeah.
do say, you know, once we know, we're going forward. And like Roberta said, you know, we do have instances where we will double fill.
Right.
In serious situations where we know we need to get somebody on board.
okay. Okay,
All right. Under discipline, change the definition of discipline to be more, I don't know what word to use, but just to be more open and defining exactly what our purposes of discipline are. Change the use of the word sanction to action. And then defined progressive discipline. So what we added is that each case will be based individually on such factors as the seriousness of infraction, the work history, prior discipline, the employee's knowledge or understanding of rules and procedures, mitigating circumstances, public and private conduct, and how others were treated under the same circumstances. We added a new section outlining and defining each of the steps in progressive discipline, as I noted them below in the next bullet, and required that human resources be consulted prior to a suspension or dismissal. So there are times we will get notified that a department has suspended somebody. We have no idea that that has happened, and really don't know what the circumstances of that are. Want to make sure that we're part of that and that we're aware of that. Because if the suspension doesn't correct the behavior, the next step will be dismissal, and we want to make sure we're all on the same page before we move forward to that.
So I'm going to borrow a page from Commissioner Rothstein here.
Yes.
Under 36.165 on the previous slide,
Yep.
defining the purpose of discipline is to effectively, consistently, and timely modify employee behaviors. Timely modify. Can we say promptly modify? Because grammatically, timely just doesn't. I'm not end-oring you.
Okay, that's okay. I appreciate it. So many times we've looked at this, and the documents, as you've seen, are all red and blue, and you miss words and everything
And Chrissy, you know,
else.
I'm a writer. I have to have someone else look at my work because if I'm looking at my own work, I miss stuff.
Right. Please do.
Self-edit, yes.
It doesn't work too well.
The, discipline, and I'm coming from a different world, but still public service in uniform. We, as we would discipline, and it would be on my, judgment to do, I would publicize it. And that was a part of the duties I had, was to ensure that the community was aware of the discipline that was taking place, because it deters others from doing what was done, and it ensures that judgment will be had, basically. And it could be done in many different ways. I mean, in the old days, we used to put it on the bulletin board and say, so-and-so did this, and yeah, so it doesn't have to be that dramatic.
Right.
But, it's important that we have a level of tolerance and a level of no tolerance. And we're describing it here. I just, being government, being open, and we are very open, we should have the ability to say, these things have taken place. And we do it sometimes because people ask,
Right.
And you don't want to be shown as, oh, this is not your business. Well, no, it is the taxpayers' business. It is our community's business.
Right.
So I'm not saying how to change something. I'm just
Something to think about.
something to think about, not to be as straight as I would do, but that was by law what I did, and there was reason. We need to ensure we continue our transparency with this for the county's good, so they know, our whole community knows that we don't accept, poor performance. Or when it's poor performance, we have the ability to correct it. We have the ability to, address it. And if it gets to a certain point of discipline, that we will, address it in that way, just as we do grievances and other things. I know I'm looking at you, but I'm also talking to everyone, that we gotta make sure that that's clear. Maybe it is, and I'm just, yapping, but I want the purpose of this is to be as clear as we can to the community that we do address these things.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah, you're not yapping.
No, I think hopefully the way we've outlined the progressive discipline process going forward with these proposals, makes it very clear that we're
Right.
going to follow a process and that we're going to address matters and that the intention is to correct them. We're
Right.
we're not disciplining people because we want to go hire different people. That's
Right.
not the purpose. We want to correct the behavior, and we spend a lot of time and money and energy to get employees. So it's not the purpose of getting rid of them, but just to correct the behavior.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that,
Yeah.
putting it out there.
Yep.
I've always indicated that the situation was handled and that we have policies and procedures, but, trying to keep, the information as confidential.
Right.
As I can, because they are working so closely with other people. And I get that it does provide an example, so to speak,
Right.
to others. I think when we see that somebody's behaving in a certain way, or if we see a pattern, our job is to go to that department or other employees and say, this is the policy, and we will address it. Now, not saying we addressed it with,
Right.
so-and-so, but
Right.
we will address this,
Right.
and we have, and making sure that employees are aware of our policies. I think, we can make sure that we're the ones that are doing that,
Yeah.
and that employees know we're not gonna let it slide,
Okay.
so.
And I'm curious, legally, if somebody wants to do PIAs or something on how someone was disciplined, are we okay right now to say, I'm sorry, we don't, yes, we disciplined somebody, but what we did is confidential?
Yes, there's a Personnel Records Exception to the Public Information Act, which requires you to deny public access to that sort of information.
Okay.
After progressive discipline, again, an error on my part here. Copied the slide and still have exit interviews in there. We talked about them on the slide before. The next major section is under grievances. Again, some just clarifying language of the way we've handled things here as far as the grievances, the grievance process, and the grievance review board. So we created a definition of the purpose of discipline as legitimate problems and differences of opinion that may arise between the county as an employer and its employees. I'm sorry, that should be grievances. I did this late, I apologize. We defined grievance as a formal written complaint filed by an employee and provided the reasons why an employee may file a grievance, and also indicated that dismissal would go directly to the grievance review board. As far as the procedures under step 1, step 2, step 3, we actually just spelled that out a little bit clearer than what it was in the prior code. It does indicate that all those steps are there in the prior code. We just cleaned up the language a little bit and made it a little bit easier to follow through as far as timelines, what you need to provide, and who you need to provide that to. The previous step stopped at human resources and indicated that our response, which is listed as step 3 on page 22, indicated that our response was the final and binding response. So we added a step 4 and added that to the county administrator. So if the grievance ever is with human resources, or has made it up through our step and there's still a concern that it was not resolved appropriately, that it would go to the county administrator. And then clarified under the grievance review board and made some changes there. You may recall we had a hearing, I don't know if it was earlier this year or it was the end of last year, but all of you were involved in the hearing. It was in regards to a dismissal. That is what the hearing grievance review board hears. We indicated that they shall have 5 days. That's not a change to grieve the dismissal. Outlined what must be included in the appeal, and indicated that you may conduct a hearing with the grievant, who can be present at that hearing, which includes a representative that can be legal representative at your own expense, that you can present witnesses, evidence, cross-examine, and present opening and closing arguments. And that after the hearing and/or review of the written appeal, the decision by the grievance review board would be sent by certified mail. Tim, you brought this up the other day. We're currently personally delivering them, so we changed that to certified mail, so it's not as cumbersome for us to make sure that the individual gets their response within 30 days. And then again, that the grievance review board is final and binding, their decision.
So, I'm sorry, so instead of the Board of Commissioners sitting as that final board, now it's 2 commissioners and...
Commissioners and the
okay.
administrator, yep.
And
so
the
it's not
reasoning for
entire
that
board.
was,
We just found it a little difficult to schedule everybody to hear it, and just wanted to make it a representative of the board, 2 of you, and the administrator. So before it was 3 steps, or 2 steps. The employee would be able to file a grievance, the administrator would hear it, and on that board would be an employee at large. So anybody that I went to and said, hey, do you want to listen to this hearing? And we had a tough time finding employees to want to do that. They
Gotcha.
didn't want to be part of that process. So it was the administrator, an employee at large, and a director. And they would hear the grievance. We would go through the whole process. The 3 of them would hear the grievance. Roberta would submit a response to that, and then the employee could come back and say, no, now I want to go to the board. So we kind of combined the 2.
streamlines the process.
Yeah, streamlined the process and made it a board of 3.
But you still have, the individual still has the opportunity to appeal that and come to the entire board.
So that part of the process is gone.
It's
The
gone?
3-part person part is gone. So we'll just be coming to the board, which is 2 of you, proposed to be 2 of you and the administrator. The middle step, the process with the other employee and the
Okay.
director is
Okay.
gone. So,
Now, typically, how many of these grievance hearings do we have? I know we've had one in the past.
And I think there might have been one other one.
In the almost 10 years I've been county administrator, that was the third.
Okay.
So they're not frequent, thankfully. We don't want to make them.
Which is good. I mean, I guess my only question would be, to your point about it being difficult to schedule that. I mean, the 5 of us are here on Thursdays. I don't really see taking it from 5 to 2 with commissioners. I'd rather have it be the 5.
Yeah, that's certainly something we can.
I mean, to me, I just feel like the 5 of us are in that position. I feel like we should have that opportunity to sit in and listen on it.
Yeah, I think we were trying to get a odd number, so that we could have Roberta sit in as well. But that certainly was our proposal. That was not something that anybody came to us with. Just coming up with the odd number for 2 of you, so that you were able to decide if it came up again, who wanted to do it. But we certainly can change it.
I think I like that because, I mean, to make an odd number, I mean, you could be the 5 commissioners plus Roberta plus
I don't
someone
need
else.
to be part of the
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
The reason we
I
the
didn't-
reason we proposed Roberta was because she does know so much of not that you don't, but she's so involved in the operations that she could present as a witness, or anyone else that would want to share information.
What if she's in Aruba or one of her long
Yeah,
vacations?
well,
What do we do?
You tell.
You have
like
to
I
think,
said, we can.
these rules and regulations aren't associated with any individual, so it has nothing to do with
Yeah,
me
yeah, no.
personally. It's this role.
No, I see you wanted an odd number.
Right. And I don't mind that it's a more streamlined process, but I think as, like Commissioner Gordon said, as commissioners, you know, having us as the ultimate review.
If you're going to get rid of there's only been one even in my predecessor's history that has come to the Board of County Commissioners, that was appealed beyond that original review board. I mean, I really don't care, except that that seems to be a big step. So maybe we put in just the staff review board that we had before, and then if in that very rare of the 3 I talked about, there's only one that's ever, in my knowledge, come to the Board of County Commissioners in the last 20 years. So, you know, I don't know. It's up to you. But
That's good perspective to have, though.
I think that
And
maybe
I-
just putting in the staff-led review board, and then having a commissioner review if anyone wants to go beyond that. But that's totally.
And I
love writing those
If
decisions.
you guys want 5, I don't care if it's 5 of us and the county administrator, because I don't know how important it is that it's an odd even number. Because again, it just doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, it was just a repeat of
Yeah,
the
well, I
information.
understand.
So when we had the step with Roberta, we
Yep.
had outside counsel that we paid for. They came and did the first step with Roberta, and it was difficult to find an employee that was willing to sit on that board for a peer or you know, a former peer. And then we had outside counsel, which we paid for, and then they appealed it to you. We had outside counsel again. And, you know, obviously the employees piece was out of it, but that was the purpose of removing that kind of middle step. But certainly whatever you think is right, we can do.
You got, I think the majority wants 5.
Okay, we'll
Right.
adjust that before we put it out for public hearing.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
It's either way, it's, hopefully we won't see it. right?
Exactly.
We hope so.
Well, the way it's written now, it will come to you
Yeah,
every time.
yeah.
so.
But I'm just saying,
just-
hopefully in the next 2 years, we don't see it happen.
Right.
If nobody
I hope-
grieves, right. We hope nobody grieves.
Ever.
HR has everyone so happy.
Yes, right. Under other considerations, those were just clarifying that there will be no discrimination or retaliation for any of the disciplines, or I'm sorry, any of the grievances that are filed. We also added that any timeline in the process may be extended by agreement of both sides in advance of its expiration. If an employee fails to comply with any time limit, the grievance will be dismissed, or if the county fails to comply with any time limit, the grievance will be dismissed. And then I apologize, the bottom part there is a repeat. So that's chapter 36, and I promise chapter 37 will not be as lengthy.
That's all right. It's good to go through this and to have the discussion.
All right, so I'm going to ask, we have Deputy Chief Supko here. I think he's still here. He was here? All right, so I'm going to ask him to come on up. The changes that we have for chapter 37 are specific to the fire and EMS department. Again, most of the changes that are proposed in chapter 37 are very similar wording changes and things like that that were in chapter 36, so I'm not gonna go back through them. What I do intend to go back through are the changes that were proposed specific to chapter 37, so that we can just work through those, and then both will be reflected in the document that can be reviewed. So section 37.570, entrance pay rate. This was a clarification regarding the language as to applicants who receive our lateral pay rate. So we've been looking at individuals who have 3 years paid experience in a similar position in another career, fire and EMS department, and meet the minimum qualifications for a lateral entrance pay rate. So we have our base pay rate for fire EMS, and then we have a lateral rate. So this is just clarifying exactly how you would be eligible for the lateral pay rate. Under 37.571, some pretty significant additions and changes here, and I just want to say thank you, because the experience that Chief Supko just, has brought from his prior employment really helped us get some of this language in here. We added what we're calling a proficiency advancement. And that's used to describe when an employee achieves the necessary skills to become proficient in a position in a higher pay grade. So if I am a firefighter EMT and I become qualified to be a FADO, a fire apparatus driver operator, and if I'm a FADO and I become qualified to be a paramedic or a paramedic firefighter or a paramedic to a firefighter paramedic, the employee's current rate of pay shall be increased by 5% or to the base of the new grade, whichever is greater. And this is similar to the practice we've been following. Now that we're getting employees moving through the pay scale, the 5% makes sense, because 5% may be higher and put them up a little bit higher in the pay scale, or they may go to the base if that's not the case. And then just clarifying that at no time an employee receive a proficiency advancement to the rate above the maximum of their pay grade. So what we've had before is if I move from an employee who is a paramedic to a paramedic firefighter, we were moving them to the base of the pay rate for a paramedic firefighter. What we're going to do now is look at whether that should be 5% or a paramedic firefighter. It's not a promotion, it's a proficiency advancement. And that has been how we're handling that. I don't know if you want to add
So
anything.
you won't create a situation where somebody's moving up and now they're making more than other people already there?
We won't right now. We will need to monitor this and see as we get through the next couple years where individuals' pay scales are. There are not at least 9% between the pay scales. So somebody that's getting 5% is not going to go somebody that's above somebody that's at the base.
Yeah.
But I hope I'm the one here before you in a couple years, or whoever's
Yeah,
here.
you need to make
saying,
sure that doesn't
yeah, once we
create
get more
gotcha.
established, we're going to have to take a look at this.
But
and
you're
determine
comfortable
what's
it
better.
doesn't now?
Not right now. It will not. No.
That never makes people
No, we have a
happy.
few years before we get to
Yeah,
that point.
right.
Yeah.
So
okay.
proficiency advancement was just a terminology change from reclassification. It just kind of fit the what was actually happening better.
On the next page, promotion, we clarified that a promotion is to the rank of lieutenant or captain. Based on the pay scale that we have for fire EMS, everything else is pretty much a proficiency advancement. The only thing that's going to be considered a promotion would be if you move to a lieutenant or a captain. Under acting capacity, this was a request from DFEMS pretty early on that we've wanted to look at how we can use employees to fill vacancies that we have, either on a shift or for a few hours if somebody's not able to report to duty, that if I'm an EMT but qualified as a FADO, that I can go work in a FADO capacity somewhere. So this language clarifies that an employee in an acting capacity will receive a pay increase to the base of the acting capacity pay grade, and that the acting capacities or acting assignments can be on a short-term basis, whether for a shift or even a few hours, or on a long-term basis, for example, an extended absence. So this will hopefully help the operations, and certainly I don't want to speak for Fire EMS, but we believe this will allow us to fill some of the vacancies that we've had to leave open, or that employees were working in that capacity and not receiving any type of adjustment. Overtime pay, one of the changes that I mentioned for Chapter 36 as far as what's included in hours worked also applies to Fire EMS. I just didn't repeat that. The other change that we're proposing is to change the overtime to be paid for any time worked in excess of 84 hours within the 14-day work period, as for our 207K employees under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Currently, you're probably more than aware, it's 168 hours in a 28-day cycle. So this will reduce the cycle time and the amount of hours, comparatively. But it does allow us, right now, we're only hiring individuals once a month when the beginning of that 28-day cycle starts because of the way it calculates the overtime. We're only transferring employees to new positions the first day of the 28-day cycle. So this will allow us to do those actions more frequently and will hopefully better serve the needs of the stations so that we can promote people, get them in new positions, and also get new employees in more frequently. We eliminated 3 sections, callback, mandatory holdover, and modified duty assignment because they have specific standard operating procedures for them. So they were referencing the operations, so we thought they were better suited for standard operating procedures. Under death benefits, we added, and Roberta mentioned this a little bit earlier, that in the case of a line of duty death, the county will also follow the United States Department of Justice Death Benefit Program guidelines. This is some of the things that were said initially when Fire and EMS came on board, that it was only the life insurance or it was only the death benefit, so we added in here that they're also entitled to that federal program.
They always have them, this just clarifies it.
Initial probation, we added that all employees shall be on probation for a minimum of 12 months, following their initial hire into the position covered under this chapter. Sorry. So.
You're doing good. You're doing
I know,
good.
it's too much. So this is because we may have employees transferring from Chapter 36 to 37. They may have been out of probation on 36, so we want to give opportunity to Fire and EMS to be able to determine their ability to perform those duties. We also revised the extension of initial probation for up to 12 months after concurrence with HR. Again, this is more related to some of the certifications and things that our firefighters are doing. They have a 1-year probation, but they're not always able to get those courses in that 1 year. So this allows us to extend it for up to another 12 months as opposed to 6 months, so that we can make sure that they're able to get those certifications and stay on board. And then lastly, we did not outline the specific steps of progressive discipline as we did in Chapter 36 because DFEMS has another applicable SOP which addresses that matter. Anything you want to add?
Ma'am.
Unrelated to this, but I want to spend more time on this subject.
Do you? Okay.
It was very interesting. I don't know your guys' experience. At the polls, I had multiple people, I bet a half a dozen, tell me how they were going through the process of being hired for EMS. And some of them were like, I made it. And some of them, I got one more step. But it was interesting that people wanted to talk about that. So I know you're trying.
I continue to be amazed at the fact that I think we've hired, it's probably close to 200 now, I think, in the past year and a half. To be able to hire that many people, and it's not me, it's our staff, it's Bridget and Sam and the team from Fire EMS that are just out there all the time, just pushing to get people in through the process. And we're looking at the process and seeing how we can maybe make that a little bit better for us going forward. But just to think you hired that many people in that time frame is just amazing on their part, so.
Yeah, first of all, Chrissy, can you start from the beginning again?
That's why you're making me cry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be. I enjoy it.
You should have asked her to go back to slide number 3.
Yeah,
So,
right?
can you go back to slide 6 and just start?
Now, my only worry, if we approve to proceed to a public hearing, does
Do I
that
have to
mean
do
we
it
get to
again?
hear this again?
I don't know the process. This is my first time, so I'm gonna have to ask for some guidance on that one, but.
I do have another question. How many do we have on hand? So we hired X, and where are we at right now?
So roughly speaking, we're about 170. We just brought 11 more people on today. We have just as many people in the pipeline for our next hiring in 28 days. And I just recently started the conversations with Bridget and HR about our caps, because it's kind of exciting that we actually have to worry about hiring too many people for certain positions such as firefighter EMT.
Is it because of your stellar personality and chiefs that you're bringing on these people, or what's going on here?
It's a team effort, sir.
Okay.
Team effort, multiple
absolutely
personality.
There you go.
impressed.
That could be.
We're doing something right, and it's very competitive. And we were told that from the get-go. It is a very competitive market. So something's happening. Again, maybe folks are recognizing Carroll County is the place to be for so many reasons, because of the leadership, because of the benefits and the work schedules. So I definitely applaud you and the entire team. You're right, it is a team. But this is the first time I'm hearing that we are in a much better situation than we were just 6 months ago or a year ago. So
Right, and we're still a little ways out, but
Sure.
changing the FLSA period from 28 to 14 days will allow us to
Right.
hire a little bit quicker. Or even, for instance, if a 28-day cycle started just before Christmas, we really wouldn't be able to pull that off. Now we can pause for 2 weeks and not lose any momentum. So all these things matter. All these add up to us keeping that momentum forward with full staffing.
I think it's also, just real quick, exciting that we're getting people from all over.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having people driving from out near Pittsburgh to come in, and they're not
wow.
moving. They're driving from the Altoona, Pennsylvania area, and down in Virginia and DC, or, they're calling us and saying, we're moving to the area. Can we come? I'm flying up for the test. Like, we had somebody fly up just to take the exam. So, I mean, I think that's very exciting, and we're trying to keep expanding that net. Yesterday, we had staff at Harrisburg Area Community College, so we're trying to get up there because we knew that they have a paramedic program.
Yep.
So, just really trying to get the net out there, and I think they're doing a great job with that. And I think the culture and the environment and just the way we're setting it up, we're hearing great things. So that's a testimony to everybody.
that's
And I
fantastic.
think you're doing great, but we got to remember there's at least 3 fire stations that are being very patient.
Yep.
And the sooner we can accommodate them, the better off. And I know you guys know that, but it's awesome.
Cool.
All right, so I would like to ask you to move to public hearing with the Chapter 36 and Chapter 37 changes.
I guess we can do that. Motion to approve the request by the Department of Human Resources to proceed to public hearing for changes to chapters 36 and 37.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
I just wanted to go through the slides again. But I think I'm okay.
I think everybody
You're
behind
okay.
me that's been in the hall is probably ready to throw darts at me on the way out.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
job.
day.
Great job.
Okay, item 3, we're now going to talk about generators
Ups.
and distribution switchgear at tower site locations.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety, requests your approval to award the task to investigate and analyze the present status of the UPS generator and distribution switchgear at tower site locations to Graybar in the amount of $67,500. This purchase will be made utilizing the Omnia Partners contract that was competitively bid. This amount is approved in the fiscal year 25 budget.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning. As you're aware, we do have generators and uninterruptible power supply units, or UPS units, in place at all of the different public safety radio system sites. We use them to protect radio equipment from power quality issues, spikes, things like that, to ensure communications are seamlessly maintained during power outages, other power disturbances, and just to basically keep our system very resilient. You know, it's incredibly important to keep that system up and running all the time. So the idea behind this project is for us to get a comprehensive status of the current system, that the equipment that's currently in service, and then take that information gained by the evaluation to help us develop a proactive replacement schedule and preventative maintenance schedule. So the age of the equipment varies. Most of the UPS units were installed as part of the P25 upgrade that happened in 2015, so they're plus or minus 10 years old. And Justin is here from facilities if we have any questions about the specific age of the generators, but they're all of varied ages and types. So it's really just time to, at that 10-year mark, to start looking at this. And this company is able to provide us with that comprehensive evaluation that we need.
So to be clear, we're not purchasing UPS. We are.
Correct.
We are spending X amount of dollars to look into the UPS associated with the various generators across the county.
Right, the UPSs, the
Yeah.
generators
Yep.
themselves, and the switchgear
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
that makes all of it work together at each of the individual sites. This is not for one site or two sites.
Right.
It's for
Right.
13 sites across the county.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yep.
Motion to approve the task to investigate and analyze the present status of the UPS generator and distribution switchgear to Graybar in the amount of $67,500.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I have a question about the towers. And again, I was quizzed about this at polling sites, and particularly about Limeburg because I was at North Carroll Middle. And I've heard some of this before, but, and I don't expect you to just rattle off all of it, but how many do we have? How many do we own? And the question specifically was, who owns the one at Limeburg? And can Verizon and whoever put stuff on that tower, or is that not allowed? Yeah, like I say, if you want to email me, but I just,
I can certainly do that. I do have a spreadsheet that provides all of the ins
Yeah,
and outs
yeah,
of all that
yes.
information. We own one tower. There are 11 tower sites. The county owns one of the towers. All of the rest of them are either leased space with commercial companies on commercially maintained towers, or they are, we use space by virtue of a memorandum of understanding with either the state government or county government, and Baltimore County is a good example. So there are multiple ways that we gain the utilization of tower space.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
ma-
so an email would be great. And then, and I don't know if it shows it on the spreadsheet, the other question would be, do we in some cases own the land but not the tower?
I have to look at the spreadsheet.
Yeah, because I think if you go to ESTAT, the county owns some of the properties, but that doesn't mean they own the tower, you know?
Right, and there are some towers that are very complicated.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure, yes.
With property ownership and
Yeah.
MOUs and things like that.
Yeah,
I think maybe, not today, not tomorrow, but getting a refresher, enclosed
Yeah.
on what's out there, the status, and for our situation awareness,
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys were interested or not. I'd like to hear about it, but if you're not, an email does, but.
I think it would be good that we all have a common operating picture on the situation, so.
Certainly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we're talking about amendment to the Town of Mount Airy and Carroll County's Project Open Space Annual Program.
Good morning, Commissioners.
People like this money, don't they?
Yes, they do. Means a lot to them. So I'm here before you this morning. Mount Airy requested, of course, back in 2024, they were allocated $138,684 or $687 complete a playground project at their Summit Ridge Park. Which time their project's been completed and it came in under budget. So they have a remaining balance of $37,731.76. And Town of Mount Airy is requesting they want to reallocate it to put towards some improvements to their rails trails project that they're doing on the east side of the main streets. And we just wanted to get that'd be required to be an amendment. So the remaining funding would go ahead and be reverted back to unencumbered. And then they would have to go apply for that money for that project.
What is what's the next priority for Project Open Space?
Again, for?
Like the next in line, because, it's allocated, dollars across the county from the state.
Right. This is their that was their 25% that they had for that one.
That was their 25%.
That's correct. And at least that's been a historic thing of any remaining funds for projects would remain with that town.
Yeah.
And they were just reallocated
Okay.
as they needed.
So, Project Open Space, there's one set of deals between us and the jurisdictions.
Correct.
And you have to get approval when it changes.
Correct.
And I think we've seen 2 of those, but then you also, is there still like a 5-year plan of capital projects and POS money or not?
It's built into the budget itself, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
And they have priorities?
Correct, yes. Of course, we don't know what next year's going to bring as far as POS allocation. We dropped quite a bit from last year to this year, so.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Guerin?
I move the Board of County Commissioners approve an amendment to the FY25 POS annual program for the Town of Mount Airy, reallocating the remaining funds from the Summit Ridge Park Playground Project in the amount of $37,731.76 towards the improvements to the Rails to Trails project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now we're going to talk about Cisco Food Services.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Recreation and Parks, request your approval to award a contract for county food and drink products to Cisco Food Services in the amount not to exceed $119,000. This is being awarded via a Sourcewell contract that was competitively bid. The amount is within the approved FY25 budget.
So this award request is for food services for Hashua, ongoing. With the procurement change rules that we had to come back and actually have it competitively bid. So they keep up. I had Dawn Harry, who's our Hashua Park Superintendent here. They answer any questions as for how the food's used, but it's for the Environmental Education Center. So
It was interesting. I was at an event, I won't remember which one, and somebody questioned why there's food prepared there. And a lot of people, I think, don't know that. But so if you just comment quickly what all you, like you feel, you guys, you feed the school kids?
Exactly.
Right?
So Hashua Environmental Center is the home of the Carroll County Outdoor School. There are anywhere from 70 to 100 students, staff out there on any given week. So, yep, that's what this contract is for. And we also do catering, user groups on the weekends, summer camps. We serve 3 meals a day to anybody who's using those facilities.
I think I've eaten there twice.
As long as you
Should
keep
do it
making
again.
that Maryland crab soup, I'm happy. No, you, awesome.
Thank you.
Motion to award a contract for county food and drink products to Cisco Food Services in the amount not to exceed $119,000.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, presentation regarding the AgPres program.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning again.
Oh, you were here for a reason.
Yes.
I tell you, it gave me a heart attack. I saw Chris was up here. I'm like, oh, is he starting without me?
Shouldn't you guys be fixing dinner or something?
There's going to be dinner tonight. We'll mention that at the end.
Yes. So, reason why we're here today, as you all are well aware, we are currently working on the county master plan, the update to the master plan, and the agricultural industry obviously is a very key part of Carroll County and our culture, et cetera. So, and as part of the agricultural industry, the county's program for agricultural preservation is a key part of that. So, JP gave a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission about a month or so ago, and thought it would be beneficial to you all to have that same presentation, although we did modify it slightly to get more into the dollars associated with the program. So I'm going to turn it over to JP so he can walk through, and then happy to answer any questions that you have. This is strictly for information only. There's no action that we're asking for you.
Question before you
Yes.
start.
Sure.
Some of this discussion started with the Wetzel Farm in Hampstead. I've been told that got split up, and one portion is local and one portion is out of state, and it's being bought. Are you hearing more people from there about it, or not really?
Not much has changed on our end.
Okay. Yeah, I know some of it's, confidential, but I just wondered what was going on. Thanks.
No problem. No problem.
Again, working the polls for a day, you hear all kinds of stuff going on. And,
How to stop you from doing that?
oh, my gosh, I want to update you about Wetzel, and
Well, I tell you, I was in line as well, and I got plenty of comments, from about a lot of different things.
Yep. Okay.
So I
Thank
can
you.
tell you in my hometown, they all know what I do. So, so I get a lot of conversation just as well as you guys, I'm sure. So,
and you got to watch where you go out to dinner in Carroll County, too.
Yes, sir. Very much. Very much. So we appreciate the time today to go over the program. It's a great program, and we're going to show you some of the reasons today. Okay, the purpose of ag preservation in Carroll County, definitely we're working with willing landowners, and we want to preserve agricultural land and forest land as a resource base. We also want to control the extent of urban expansion and reduce fragmentation of the agricultural zone. What is an easement? That's always a question on everybody's mind. A conservation easement is a legal agreement and permanently recorded deed restriction between a landowner and a government or private preservation institution, which restricts residential, commercial, and industrial development and preserves the agricultural use of the property in perpetuity. We have a small history here of ag preservation in Carroll County. In the late 60s, early 70s, a series of studies documented the effects of non-agricultural uses and how those uses conflicted with the county's desire to maintain productive agricultural land and rural heritage. In 1973, the commissioners adopted a master plan to direct residential growth with planned services into town centers and to restrict residential development in a new, larger agricultural zone. Carroll County made a commitment to preserve 100,000 acres as a minimum goal. To accomplish this, through the master plan, to accomplish the master plan objective, Carroll County made zoning changes in the late 70s and committed to an equity program for farmland owners through participation in the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Program. Forwarding to Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Program, we have a slide here about the Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation, which we respectfully call MALF. The program was created in 1977 by the Maryland General Assembly to preserve productive agricultural lands and woodlands. The first easement through the MALF program in Carroll County was in 1980. Currently, we have 46,910 acres preserved on 411 farms in Carroll County through the MALF program. MALF criteria: minimum 50 acres if the property stands alone, could be less if adjacent to another east property. Soils classifications: it's a minimum 50% class 1, 2, or 3 soils. The location cannot be within the boundaries of a designated growth area. Anywhere else in the county is allowed. Development rights: a property must have at least one unused development right associated with the property to sell an easement. Conservation and management plans: each applicant must have a soil and water conservation plan that has been approved by the local soil conservation district. If they have more than 25 acres of contiguous forest land, they must also have a forest stewardship plan. As far as local criteria, we rank the applications in order of priority to be preserved.
The 50 acres, it could be less if it's adjacent to another MALF property or adjacent to another...
To any other preserved property.
Regardless of its...
Yes, sir.
How we got there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Funding for MALF comes from real estate transfer taxes, which is 0.5% of the value of the real estate transaction, and also comes from agricultural transfer tax, which is 3 to 5% of the value of the land transferred. MALF and Carroll County have a 60-40 funding relationship, and that's 60% for MALF and 40% for Carroll County. Historically, MALF provides $2 million per year funding for their program, and county funds come through a $1.33 million bond that we put up, to take advantage of the $2 million per year. This year, the state has combined FY25 and FY26 funding sources for this fiscal year.
Have they made any indication if that's going to be forever or it's one time?
That was something voted on by the Board of Trustees. As of now, that's one time.
Okay.
So they will probably revisit that when they find out what their funding will be to decide if they're going to go back to an every year program, which is something that we support when the opportunity comes up. So we have an example farm here. The fair market value as determined by MALF at $142,857. I made these numbers easy to work through, so if that seems odd. So MALF will make an offer of 70% to the applicant, which would be $100,000, and below that, we have MALF's responsibility at 60%, $60,000, and then the county's contribution, which is 40% at $40,000.
Do we put, in this case, would we put out the $100,000 and then MALF would reimburse us, or do we get their money before we give out money?
So MALF does the settlements on their own, and we present that, we have that $1.33 million bond available, and it's already available to them. So they would request that money from us, and then it would be at settlement with MALF, our portion.
Yeah, okay.
So that's how that works. And currently, we have 16 farms under consideration down at MALF. Critical Farms Program. The Critical Farms Program was created in 1992 to help farmers purchase high-quality farms that are in threat to be developed. Same qualifications as a MALF applicant, but must be mostly tillable, and what we like to call a farmer's farm. The Critical Farms Program provides 52.5% upfront funding to the contract buyers in exchange for enrolling the farm in agricultural preservation. Approved applicants are required to apply to MALF and to accept an offer equal to or greater than the 52.5% assistance provided by the county within 5 years. So basically, they apply to MALF. When they get their offer of 70% of MALF's determined fair market value, 52.5% of that or some amount of that will come back to us. And that's what I'm explaining for the last thing there. Reimbursement, which is partial or full to the county at settlement with MALF, with funds then available for future easement purchases.
So, with this farmer's farm, must be mostly tillable. What if I have 100 acres and half of it's pasture, which means it's probably not particularly tillable, or I wouldn't use it as pasture. Is that still a farmer's farm or not really?
I think
or do you guys rank them?
Sure. Well, they're all going to get ranked. Pasture land and crop land are probably going to be ranked the same. But we still have a process where the advisory board, looks at it preliminarily as well as yourselves. So we have a process if it's any type of borderline, questionable type situation that we have checks in place to decide if that's going to be pushed forward as a critical farm. And if not, that's plenty early enough in the situation that we can steer that applicant to another program.
Thanks.
Okay. Currently, we have preserved 9,877 acres on 82 farms with the Critical Farms program. Carroll County Ag Preservation Program. Our program was created in 2003, and our funding comes from county general funds. The minimum is 60 acres if the property stands alone, minimum 30 acres if it's adjacent to another easement property. Could be less if added to another preserved property. So we have a part of our program where we do something called add-ons, and that's where that comes into play. Soils criteria, 50% minimum class 1, 2, or 3 soils, same as MALF. And development rights, a property must have residential and or commercial development at a minimum to sell an easement. Conservation and management plans, again, they must have a soil and water conservation plan that has been approved by a local soil conservation district. If at least 1 acre of contiguous forest land, you must have a forest stewardship plan. So all the conservation easements have soil and water conservation plans and possibly forest stewardship plans if it's needed.
So this is a program available for designated growth areas? If
No,
there
sir.
are- Say again?
No, sir, it's not available in designated growth areas. I should have had that in there. There aren't any preservation programs where we move forward with anyone that's in a designated growth area until they've had a conversation with the town, and we don't help them get that out of the growth area. That's all between the town and the landowner.
We've had this conversation for
Yeah.
years. I've been bringing this up, I've been here for 6 years, and from the first year on. And I thought we were moving in the direction to allow for properties within designated growth areas to be considered for preservation.
Yes, they would be considered.
And,
Yes,
and
that's
your
a-
area especially, a lot of the farmers know there that we would accept an application
Under what program?
under the county program.
Yes.
Under this program?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so
He was thinking,
And-
I think, to JP's defense, I think he was thinking of the towns.
Yeah, in general, but the word is definitely out that we would accept an application in that area. But for the most part, Tawnytown, Westminster, Union Bridge, New Windsor, Manchester, Hampstead.
So you're talking municipalities, I'm talking designated growth area.
Right.
You
And
are
they all
correct, sir.
have a growth area.
But
Municipalities are a subset.
But Sykesville,
Right.
that would be the jurisdiction, but Eldersburg, that's county.
which is
controlled.
designated as a designated growth area.
Yeah, but
And
you're saying you'd take them in the county. Your Sykesville, they need to work it out with Sykesville.
that's correct.
Well, yeah. I mean, if somebody came to me and me knowing those areas in that Freedom area, I would say they could apply. And that's where it all starts. It comes to our office, asking about eligibility questions. And in that particular area, we would accept an application.
Okay.
I should have
again-
cleared, I should have
No,
made that more
that's
clear.
okay, and I didn't mean to be so stern about it.
No, it's fine.
The issue is we have the municipalities, which are also designated growth areas.
Yes.
We have an additional designated growth area, the Freedom District, that is not a municipality, but is a designated growth area. I wanted to ensure that that designated growth area had the ability to be considered, and we are on that path.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that
so-
up.
Yeah,
Who would decide if it's still in a growth area? Because it's that's the county, but whom? Because to me, it would be tough if they were served with water and sewer, but if they weren't, it should be almost like other areas. But
So-
who decides that?
and this is also going to come into play as we develop the master plan. So this is good timing because
Oh, yeah,
I am not convinced that the Freedom District designated growth area is still appropriately defined, and I don't believe this Freedom Plan is anything that should be redone. Okay, it should be under one master plan. And I'm been very clear about that as well. But it's it is and Chris, you're going to correct me on this as far as how it's being defined. So can you just share the Freedom District designated growth areas, boundaries, and why it's defined the way it is?
Yes.
Okay.
So the purpose of the designated growth area is to identify those areas where it's anticipated that water and sewer service would be available. So it allows for future development, for future growth. That boundary, the limits of that boundary is set by the Board of County Commissioners. So as you said, through the master plan process, we can certainly redefine that if there are changing desires. To go back to the AgPres question, yes, if someone who was in the designated growth area of Freedom wished to apply, we would take that application and we would bring it to the AgPres board for discussion and to you all for discussion. But to Commissioner Kyler's point is if it's an existing farm field that has water and sewer running through it, that would be a hard discussion to have. Is it appropriate to preserve that in perpetuity when it has public water and sewer?
Correct.
But that's a discussion to be had and a decision that you all would make.
So
Wouldn't it be prohibitively expensive too if you had all those
Yeah,
lot rights
absolutely.
with utilities?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
let's say it's not served
That's right.
with water and sewer. So then you get the application. Your board sees it before you would talk to us.
Yes,
So they
that's
may or
correct.
may not say,
Recommend.
yeah, we like this or no, we don't.
They would know, though, also that you guys,
Or
Yeah.
saying we want to consider it.
I mean,
Correct.
properties like off of Arthur Shipley or Bushy, and like they're on the outskirts in District 4 of the Freedom District, they should have the ability to be considered for ag preservation, or down 97, where it, south of 26. Again, there's nice property out there, and they should have the ability to be considered for ag preservation. They are not getting the water and sewer. So it's incumbent on us to take another look at this. And, 2018 is when the Freedom District Plan was signed. we've come a long ways in looking at this. So now is a great time to bring it all together and not separate plans for everything we do. So, okay.
Agreed.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too, and I think that's what we need to drive towards. So,
Yeah, we've talked to a few landowners down there that have called and asked questions. I've even been, asked to reach out, just, by a neighbor. The person knew I was reaching out. I wasn't, trying to get them in, just to let them know about the program.
Sure.
And in that instance, that person appreciated the call, just let them know that, I was basically just letting them know that the commissioners were willing to take applications in that area. And at the time, they were not interested, and they greatly appreciated, the information. We've also talked to landowners near Obrecht and 97, Bartholow, so there's some interest.
Right.
Just no applications yet.
yeah, and that's fine. It's getting the word out. It's getting
Yes, sir.
making sure the community understands that we are restrictive in the programs. However, with that said, we are looking at opportunities for other property owners. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
all. And I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
and the landowners and the farmers that rent that land, they have very good relationships. And I know personally, several of the farmers in that area, and
Yeah.
they all know the situation.
Yep. Okay. That's great.
Yes, sir. I think we're to the bottom of this slide. Through the Carroll County Ag Preservation Program, we have preserved 25,482 acres on 233 farms. Funding for the Carroll County Ag Preservation Program, our funding is budgeted from general funds, and unused funds roll to the next fiscal year. So we begin with unassigned balance from FY '24 at $1,188,323. Our FY '25 funding allocation was $1,100,000, which brings our FY '25 available funds up to $2,288,232. We have projected refunds from Critical Farms Program that's coming back from MALF at $1,160,783.
Do you know the timing for that?
It's somewhat random because of
that's what I
people's
thought.
title
So
searches.
you can't count on it being by a certain time.
That's correct. And we're not much involved with it at that point here at the county level, but we do whatever we can to, facilitate the settlements through the state. If there's any correspondence that we need to do, it definitely gets taken care of in a timely manner.
And if I may, that's why we have projected in there. We're not going to commit those funds until they're actually in the bank.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
Thank you. So our projected available funds at this time are $3,449,015. Our FY '25 applicants approved by the Ag Preservation Board equal $2,469,759. And our projected unassigned funds for FY '25 is $979,256.
I apologize. The total acreage, the FY '25 applicants approved by the board,
Yes, sir.
roughly, total acreage, what are we talking?
We're probably talking, let's see, 200.
I know you're gonna have to take off your shoes to
Okay,
count.
no, it's around 430 acres.
Okay. Okay.
But to me, with this slide, the problem is if you take out the $1,160,000, because you don't know when you're gonna have it, you're about 200,000 in the hole.
Right. Yes, so there is
you're
the
kinda
anticipation.
broke.
Yes, so there is some anticipation of some of the MALF funds coming back in a timely fashion that will cover that. But obviously, when we get that to the point of the board's final approval, we'll be sure that the funds are there.
Oh, yeah. But it's, I'm worried about the $1,000,001 funding, and was that enough? But go ahead.
No problem.
I'll get to
No
that
problem.
question.
So the unassigned funds for FY '25, $979,256, and we have 2 applications approved by the Ag Pres Board awaiting funding to process that equals $1,090,914.
And obviously, them combining, or combining FY '25 and FY '26 is not helpful.
Correct. Yes.
And those funds are down because of transfer taxes that were collected were low because of higher interest rates and less land transferring, from person to person.
How much do you feel like, say, in the last 2 years, the per acre appraisals in Carroll County have gone up?
Probably 3,000 to 5,000 per acre.
Wow.
So we're working on one now as well, which we just saw, the commissioners a couple days ago. So we'll be getting that appraisal back. It'll be interesting to see where those are going, starting this year. The Rural Legacy Program. The Rural Legacy Program was enacted in 1997 by the Maryland General Assembly. Preservation is designated in watershed areas on the east and west sides of Carroll County. On the east side, we have the Upper Patapsco Rural Legacy Area, and on the west side, we have the Little Pipe Creek Rural Legacy Area. It's a grant-funded program, grant-funded by program open space dollars and general obligation bonds from the state. Counties must apply annually to the Rural Legacy Board for participation in the program and to receive funding. Each grant awarded must be used within 18 months before the next grant is available. Up till today, we've preserved 5,570 acres on 70 farms with the Rural Legacy Program. Rural Legacy funding. Funding is budgeted state general funds. Unused funds roll to the next fiscal year, and grant awards must be used within 18 months, as I stated before. Currently, we have an unassigned balance from FY '24 at $490,997, and our FY '25 grant funding came in at $877,500 for a total available funds in FY '25 of $1,368,497. Here's a map of Carroll County, and the green, blue, purple, and red are all of our easement areas. And we also want to point out on the left side, the shading in the back that's yellow is the Little Pipe Creek Rural Legacy Area, and the shading on the east side that is light blue is the Upper Patapsco Rural Legacy Area. A few accomplishments by Carroll County Ag Preservation. We are number 1 in Maryland for the number of acres preserved. We are number 2 in the United States for acres preserved through an easement purchase. So those are great statistics for us. And in 2021, we received the Maryland Sustainable Growth Award for preservation and conservation.
Do you know who's number 1?
Lancaster.
okay.
No, it's not Lancaster. It's a county in Kentucky.
Oh, is it?
From
Okay.
from the research that I saw. Lancaster is up there also, yeah.
So not as of today, because I have another number, but when we did this in October, we had a total of 80,461 acres, and yesterday, a few deeds of easement were recorded, and we are now up to 80,518 acres. So we try to count those when the deeds are recorded. I think this is the end of the program. Any more questions? Anything we can help you with?
It's a lot of work.
So the $1,000,001, which was essentially a cut from prior years, how much is that tying your hands?
Say that one more time.
If you had more money, would it be moving more quickly? The other, I think we cut $1 million.
I think
So another $1 million, would that help, or you're okay?
Well, every dollar helps.
I know,
We would have,
Rephrase that question.
as
Yes,
far as
yes.
preliminary approval, we would have brought you 2 more farms. That's kind of where that's at, and we will bring them to you as we get the funds. Excuse me?
You have those, and you could do them.
Yes.
They're there.
Yes.
And the state, with their money going from one year the same amount for 2 years, that's tied your hands worse, because you were on a roll every year, and now you need to tell people, I'm sorry, it's not this July, it's next July.
It's a difficult conversation, but they understand, and I don't think any farms are going to go unsold because of it. And I think for the most part, they will eventually come into the program.
And we can't help with that. That's
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
But we have had challenging years in the past where the state had cut funding heavily.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, we had one year where we did 32 properties in an IPA.
Yes,
So
I think that year they only offered the IPA.
What's interesting right now, and I don't know if we want to really get into this today, I'd like to have Ms. Hobbs come in and talk about it, because I already looked into the numbers. We have a lot of opportunity with IPA right now based off of the bond prices.
Rates.
Yes. And obviously, as you know, I don't have to explain it to you. I will mention it for everybody else. If you do the bond, the property owner would get, let's say, $1 million estimated value. IPA says 40%. We'd be at $400,000 over the 20-year bond, which would be tax-free. Currently, a bond's .38909 is what we would be looking at for the county, which would cost $155,636. So at 20 years at 5% interest, that's another $400,000 tax-free, which would bring us to $800,000. Cost to the county would be the $400,000 plus the $155,000, so you're looking at $555,636, which at that, it's cheaper than us paying 70% out, and the property owner's walking away with tax-free money for $800,000.
And one of the properties that you guys approved as a preliminary to move forward with is an IPA.
Yes, I remember that one.
And it's a decent-sized farm. It's over 100 acres. I feel like it's 130, but I'm not exactly sure. And that is a great program. And it's offered to everyone, that comes with an application. We explain that to them, and the bond rate is good.
I just wonder if we shouldn't have more of a discussion on this later, obviously not today, but I wonder if we shouldn't be prioritizing the IPAs, because if you're talking less of a cost to the county taxpayers, and I understand it's not paid out front, but that is what that is. So, I mean, the question then becomes, do we want to bring in as much land as possible, but also being a little more fiscally sound or responsible, whatever word we want to use, for the county taxpayers, because they're getting more money, and we're not writing that bigger check up front.
Right, and we do have some cost containment built into the county lump sum program, because we use an average fair market value. So we work with a local appraiser and/or review appraiser with MALF appraisals, our appraisals, and local farm sales to come up with an average for different areas in the county. So we're not actually doing a traditional appraisal that may be a couple $1,000s per acre more, even land only. So there is some cost containment built into that. So that 70% is based on, some percentage of what may be, a higher value done through a traditional appraisal rather than our points-based appraisal.
Who can make the decision which program it is? Is that the landowner? You
is the
give them the options, and you can try to push one or the other, but it's ultimately their decision.
That's correct. And sometimes that's just money availability, or it's a time constraint. But we do our best to, guide them into what works, what would work best for them, and what would work best for us. But in the end, it does come down to the landowner's decision.
If it would be helpful, so when JP first explained the IPA program to me, I'm an engineer, I like spreadsheets. I put together a spreadsheet that did all the calculations. You can fill in the numbers that are variable, and then it figures it all out for you. I'd be happy to share that with you all if you'd like to take a look at it.
Great.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it gets them down into the 60% range, at least traditionally. I mean, with a bond rate, Commissioner Gordon is saying is there at 38, was it 38 cents on the dollar?
Yeah, it's 38 on a dollar
Yeah,
right
I mean,
now.
that's lower than I've seen other times that we've done IPAs. So that it would be a great savings. You know, but like I said, there's a little cost containment built in there as an average fair market value. So our 70% might be a little bit lower than, say, Mouth's 70%.
Yeah, I'd like to have that further discussion and
Yeah.
more information.
Sure.
Any other questions for now?
We'll see you
Thanks.
tonight at dinner.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tonight's the Carroll County Land Trust meeting and banquet. I know a couple of you guys are coming. They put on a great banquet, and we do a small presentation that honors everyone that settled with us this past year. There was a cutoff sometime this fall. But I think we're going to be recognizing probably at least 20 different landowners. So it should be a good night. I look forward
Big
to
crowd,
it.
or
I think
good
there's
crowd,
about
you-
114 on the RSVP list, so maybe others will show up, maybe some of those won't, but a few delegates, so it should be a good night.
good.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Super. What,
Oh,
I-
can I
I
mention
can't-
one more thing before? I apologize for interrupting you.
no.
They're going to do a presentation honoring Donald Dell, and he currently has 5 generations.
Yep.
You know, on their farm. I don't really want to say working on their farm because, one generation's 90-some years old, the other generation's 2, but it's a remarkable thing. And it's not a long presentation, but I think it's going to be a good presentation.
Absolutely. It's not too many years ago, I saw Donald at an auction, the one out on Water Tank at just past Shulk, and he was personally buying a planter for his sweet corn.
Right.
Because he was like, they're all so busy, I'm going to buy my own, and blah, blah, blah. So he was, not too long ago, he was still doing it. My question was, and I can't remember in your program, is there any, do you, I'm trying to think of the right word, do you describe how people can donate tonight? Or will there be forms there? I know when you signed up to come, there was a line, do you want to donate? But will that paperwork be available tonight or not really?
I would say that the Carroll County Land Trust will have documentation available if someone wants to join the Land Trust or donate to the Land Trust. That could be readily available.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to this for like 5 more minutes so I don't get in trouble. But I've got a good Donald Dell story. I started buying dairy cows in the mid-'90s for myself. I was a dairy farmer before I took the position here at the county as program specialist. And I didn't have a big trailer. I didn't know how many cows I was going to buy. So I went to Gary Dell, which is one of my good friends. And I said, hey, man, can I borrow your truck and trailer? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I took a gooseneck up there. I took this old red regular cab dually that they had. And when I got to the sale, Mr. Donald Dell was there. And I was a little gun shy. The cattle were expensive. I literally bought the last cow. I bought 1 cow. And he came walking up to me after the bidding was done. And he says, do you have my truck and trailer here? I said, yes, sir, I do. He goes, well, I bought a few cows. I need you to haul them home for me. It's like, I'm okay. So I go to pay for mine, and I tell the person at the counter, I said, I need to know which cows are Donald Dell's because he asked me to take them home for him. Well, he bought so many cows, I had to pay somebody to take my cow home. And then when I got home or got back to their place, Gary was milking. And I said, hey, man, I got like 9 cows out here your grandfather bought. And he's like, I can't say what he said. But he's like, you're kidding me. I don't want any more cows. And I was like, well, you got them. I said, and they need to be milked. So, he didn't really ask me if I had anything to haul home. He didn't really care, I don't think. So it was a great memory that I have of him. So I'm looking forward to it tonight.
Cool. Yeah, great fan. And there's, again, I love Carroll County. There's a bunch of families like that around here. It's amazing. It's amazing. And the young ones, like you say, Grady farmed out west last year. Well, old Greg, and I said it, Greg, he had to
call him
go.
old too.
He had to go away for 2 or 3 days. So Grady got to run the combine.
Right.
Well, Greg gets back home, and Grady's goes, I kind of like this. We don't really need you. So it's a hard-working family. One more quick story since you took the time. Doug Dell, of course, a bunch of them were wrestlers, so he's wrestling for me. He's 13 or 14. They started developing, not them, but other people out in that area, and State Cop moved in. So one morning at 4 a.m., he stops Doug driving the pickup down to Milk. And he said, I want to see your license. Doug's like, I'm 13, and he goes, well, you can't drive on the road. And Doug said, well, I got to go down to Milk. And the cop said, to his credit, I can't give a ticket to a 13-year-old at 4 a.m. who's going to work.
That's right.
And like I say, I love Carroll County.
Yep, well, we look forward to tonight, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
JP, thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you, Chris.
Take care.
Okay, and I think we have a caller.
Yes, sir. If that caller could please use *6 to unmute, identify yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to make public comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Well, I have to start with the Don Dell story myself. My favorite one, back when I ran for commissioner and put signs up on his yard, and I guess I was maybe calling him a little too much, but I called and his wife, God rest her soul, said, "It's that Adelaide woman calling." Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's this Adelaide woman calling you guys, my Republicans. Yay, you know why I'm happy today, and I'm sure you do too. Well, first of all, Catherine Adelaide, Chair of Election Integrity Subcommittee for the Carroll County Republican Central Committee. I actually got a canvasser calling me in right now. He's up canvassing for me so I could do this. Anyway, the election of the century has come, and I have to be honest, I don't think I'll completely believe it until Donald Trump gets sworn in, but I'm pretty optimistic. So I do want to thank fellow member Mercedes Mobus. She came in with a boatload of Trump signs. We were at the end. We had kind of run out. We didn't want to buy more signs. I was like, it's Carroll County. We got to have more Trump signs. So Mercedes came through. Thank her. We've also got control of the Senate, which is going to be, I think, more pro-life, and the House. The House also. We're still waiting on the Neil Parrott race. Praying for that. Boy, that's really close. And the big local victory is our Board of Education candidates, Zimmer and Malvo. So I have never seen Zimmer and Malvo. That is the race that totally unified the Central Committee this election season. I mean, it was all hands on deck. Everybody did a great job. The big disappointment, unfortunately, is the Q1 question. I thought for sure we would not pass, or we would not get the majority on that in Carroll County. I knew it was going to go with the state, so I was very disappointed in that situation, and we'll have to be dealing with that even with our Board of Education. But we had our final day at the trailer. I thank Joe Lehman again and Kathy Allison for manning the trailer. Krista Schultz has the trailer stored for our next adventure. Scott Hollenbeck was out there. Sam Jones was out there. Rich Collins was doing the Hogan campaign. He was up in Pennsylvania. He coordinated that. So we had a great team effort. I'm very proud of the Central Committee. As the chair of election integrity, I really emphasize dual control and chain of custody issues. As you know, I watched the drop boxes. I did early voting. I did poll watching. I did electioneering, and the last phase of it is our canvassing, which is going on right now. This is the big one, and there'll be 2 more, so I'm trying to coordinate that. I'll be working on final reports and recommendations to the full committee, central committee. And if you get a chance, go out today, and the canvass will go on all day. Go out and watch what canvassing is. That's when they count the votes. So we hope our elections are secure for Malvo and Zimmer, but we should still be watching. All right. Thank you all for being Republicans. It's a wonderful day in Carroll County. God bless you all.
Thank you for calling. Chris, do you have any more?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I need to make one more comment about all this. There's people that criticize who comes in here to make public comment and who doesn't. Everybody's welcome, and someday I'll regret saying that maybe when we get 25 or something, but you know, you're welcome to make the public comment, and I don't know what it would take for us to cut somebody off or say, you can't say that. We pretty much listen for 3 minutes unless there's personal attacks or something really ignorant. So I just want to encourage you, if you, instead of bashing the ones that take their time to do it, if you want to do it, call in. Now, I will tell my haters, you have to undo your fake name for Facebook. You have to have a real name. Thank you. Admin open. Anybody got any items they want to discuss?
No, sir.
We need a motion to approve the closed minutes for 10/31/24.
Motion to approve closed minutes?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Agenda.
Good afternoon, Wanda. How are you?
Monday, November 11th, office is closed for Veterans Day. 10 a.m., flags of our Heroes event, Commissioner Rothstein, and I'm sure there's others going to be places.
Yep.
And even some on some other days at the various schools. Tuesday, November 12th, Community College Board Annual Outreach Breakfast, Commissioners Gordon, Kyler, Rothstein, and Vigliotti. 7 p.m., Ag Center Board Meeting, Commissioner Kyler. And should we add the solar hearing for that night and the next day? I think so. 7 p.m., there's a solar hearing on the 12th, and then there's one again on the one on the 13th is listed there.
If you could add Fanny Dorsey to that item number, so to help people understand where it is, not to be confused with the, I'm talking at 7 o'clock on the 13th.
Right, that's the one on the 13th, right?
Yes. Yeah, on the 13th, not to be confused with Spring Valley, which people will know at least what the street is and the road is, and
Oh.
better understanding of
Yeah,
which one
well-
we're talking about, because Chaberton's got several projects going in the county.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah,
and
so
they
list the
name them.
location of
They
the
name them.
community solar field. Yep, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay, Wednesday, November 13th, 8:30 a.m., Bridging Life Annual Veterans Breakfast, Commissioners Gordon and Rothstein. 9:30, Farm Museum Board Meeting, Commissioner Vigliotti. 10 a.m., Small Business Administration Visit to Carroll County, Commissioners Kyler and Rothstein. 11 a.m., Star Chase Demo, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, Commissioner Gordon. 6 p.m., PSEG Public Information Session, Commissioners Gordon, Kyler, and Rothstein,
And I will be there too.
and Vigliotti. They advertise 5:30, but the doors might be open earlier than that if you want to get there and get in. The public hearing for the solar at 7 p.m., which is virtual. And what do you have to sign up to speak? 24 hours ahead? Something like that.
Yes, I'll get you your instructions.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to speak, you need to sign up ahead of time. Thursday,
And I
November.
think everything's on the PSC's website, right? Public Service Commission's website.
It's on our,
On the Public Service Commission's website.
okay, on the Public Service Commission's website, which is state.
Yes.
Thursday, November 14th, 8 a.m., Board of County Commissioners closed. 9 a.m., Board of County Commissioners open session. Item 1, National Apprenticeship Week proclamation. Item 2, the public hearing on solar energy generating systems ordinances. And that is the public hearing. And at 9:50, another public hearing, Chapter 158, housing ordinances. Item 3. Item 4, comment letter for Westminster annexation. Item 5, Robert's Rules discussion. Public comment, agenda review. Friday, Saturday shows nothing. Sunday is my turn to do the podcast.
What's the Robert's Rules? What's to be discussed?
Wanted to have a general conversation on that topic since we've brought that up a million times in here in the past 2 years, and there seems to be a wide array of conversation on it, be it Mr. Burke's interpretation on certain pieces. I know Roberta had mentioned something the other month with a vote, because the question, Commissioner Rothstein, you had motioned something, and then the question was, well, can he vote on it? Can it be, do you have to vote for it if you motioned it? So I wanted to have more of just a discussion overall on it.
Is there an agenda to that topic?
So that'll be a discussion item, not a motion item?
I guess it technically could be a motion item, depending.
A motion to do
I
what,
would
though?
advise everyone, I've done Robert's Rules. If you're interested in us following Robert's Rules, you need to get the book and read it, because it would really tie our hands. Now, if you're interested in saying certain things, that's probably smart, which kind of how it's been. But if you've
Yeah.
ever run a Robert's Rules meeting, it's cumbersome.
I don't mind having, kind of where you're going, a conversation about how we are conducting, our sessions. My concern is that we are going to hamstring us. We've been talking about, again, we talk about processes, all this. We haven't done anything except do what we're doing, and we're actually doing it very well.
I'm not debating that. I'm just saying between several conversations, and then I've had people, which included some people that had contacted me or actually spoke to me at the Farm Bureau dinner that questioned it. Had one resident who, she was, as she put it, rather concerned and questioned why we weren't. Now, I'm not suggesting her
We weren't what?
utilizing Robert's Rules, because that was the meeting where we were having the conversation on the 1.5 million for Westminster, and you had made, if I remember correctly at the time, you had made a motion, and then the question was, well, if you made the motion, how can you,
Yeah.
which I'm not
Yeah.
going to get all deep
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that
yeah.
today, but the
No.
point was, there's been multiple people that have asked that to me in the last couple months. I mean, I can't speak for anybody
I would
else,
bet
but
certain portions of my anatomy, none of them have ever run a meeting using Robert's Rules.
Is
They
the
don't have a clue.
discussion on Robert's Rules, or is the discussion on how we are conducting our
Well, I was
open
going to say,
session?
do you want to say Robert's Rules slash?
yeah, I would say
meetings?
slash and meeting.
Would that
Yeah,
cover
yeah,
it?
that's fine.
Yeah, that's
That's fine.
yeah. But and I understand.
Yeah.
But like I say, I did the same thing. Wow, too many years ago. Our rec council had 7 or 8 people, and I think in our constitution it said we'd follow Robert's Rules. And I got a book for each one of them and said, study this and decide if you really, really want to do it, or we want to do, cherry pick it and do some good things. And it's strange, but worth discussion. Admin open, agenda review, Friday, Saturday shows nothing, and my podcast.
It'll be a hit.
Okay, so we got to do week 2? Monday, November 18th, Town Hall, District 5, Commissioner Rothstein. And at 6:30, again, Commissioner Rothstein. And I'm out of town. I won't be able to come ask you
It's all
questions.
good.
Sorry.
You could phone
Appreciate
in.
that.
Yeah, can I do it virtual?
You could do it any way you want. I may not listen.
That kind of covered it.
I'm hoping, those of interest come out and share their thoughts and ideas. And I'm going to lay it all out there on what's happening down in District 5 and some of the other activities happening. So,
Yeah, in all seriousness, they've been good meetings and good people with a lot of thoughts and ideas. I've enjoyed it.
yep.
Tuesday, November 19th, Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Gordon. 2 p.m. Veterans Advisory Meeting, Commissioner Gordon. Wednesday, Carroll Community College Board of Trustees, Commissioner Kyler. 7 p.m., Carroll County Public Library, and you cannot.
Right. So Wanda, that evening, I'll be at a Potomac Edison power line information session.
Wanda, I'll take a look at my schedule and see if I can make that.
Yeah.
Just put me down for a maybe right now.
I'm just trying to talk slow because I don't want to.
Well, I was going to say, or you get her times
I'll
and
send you
where
that, yeah.
and everything, so she can put it in
Yep.
with everything. And you're going to try.
I'm going to put that down as a maybe, and I'll confirm that with Wanda.
Emergency Service Advisory Council, Commissioner Guerin, 8 a.m. closed admin, 9 a.m. open, Priority Carroll, Cisco SmartNet support, Urban Area Security Initiative, etc. Comment letter for Westminster Annex 80. Discussion and possible decision on solar energy generating systems, Chapter 158.
All three of these things are if needed. So if you
Yes.
don't sign the letter on the week before, then you have this agenda item. If you don't decide after the public hearing, if you keep the record open,
Yeah,
then you
so
have these next two
these are
things.
possibilities. So the next one is the housing ordinances. And then the next item, financial assurance plan required by Maryland Environment, Article 4-202. Option to purchase the William and Patricia Hahn property through the County Preservation Program. Consideration of bond sale award resolution.
And that timing will be based on so the sale starts at 10:30.
So that's definitely that day,
It's definitely that day, it's advertised.
but you don't know for sure the time.
And now that it's all electronic, it's usually faster than it used to be. But with the taxable issue for Hampstead Fire Company, there are two issues, two different issuances, and that we anticipate that will take longer as a result. So it could, you have to do all the verification and validation before it's actually awarded. So that time may take a little longer than normal. So it might run into the noon hour or whatever.
Okay, public comment, admin open, agenda review, and this may need to be removed due to bond sale, the chamber luncheon at the Portico, 6 p.m., the delegation legislation public meeting, Commissioner Kyler.
And I'll be attending that as well.
Okay, and add Commissioner Vigliotti. And then fire EMS pinning ceremony, Commissioner Rothstein. And then on Friday, the inauguration at Carroll Community College, Commissioners Gordon, Kyler, and Rothstein. And then the Carroll Community College President reception at noon. Tonytown Elementary 75th anniversary, Commissioner Vigliotti. Saturday shows nothing, and it's Commissioner Gordon's chance to do the podcast.
Wanda, if you could you add me to the reception at noon on the 22nd? Thank you.
And if we're ready, that's motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
My motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.